Hello and welcome to the Unofficial Controller Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast. Prepare the fanfare. It's episode 150, and it's the Never Have I Ever video game edition. With me, George, as always, joined this week by RGT and Seb. We'll get to Bobby in a moment, but let's all wish him well, because he's not feeling very well at the moment. And as I say, they're always and forever to my sometimes and for a short while. Gentlemen, how's it going? Let's start with Seb. How do you find yourself this fine week?
I'm doing pretty well. My power level's above 9,000. Shout out to, anyone who recognized that reference from Dragon Ball Z, but doing pretty well. It is a kind of like a quiet time before review season in video games right now. So I'm sort of just playing some of the backlog right now, just kind of chilling out, maxing out, relaxing, all cool. And whenever the rain
playing some b-ball outside of school.
Yeah, and a couple of guys who are up to no good, man. But anyways, it's been
the literal Fresh Prince of the show.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for all the games to come. But in the meanwhile, I've been playing some really cool indies, and we'll get into that as the show progresses, though.
Awesome. Okay, RGT, how's your week been?
I've been off work, so it's been fantastic.
Slipped on a pot noodle, put your back out, son.
No, I've just had annual leave, so made the most of it, played some games. I've done that one last year, I can't do it again.
There's still a chance to slip on a pot noodle before you go back to work.
Definitely, yeah, have another week.
Okay, well, as anyone who's listened to this show for 150 episodes knows, that once I've asked you how you're doing, I've got to ask you what you've been. In fact, hang on, since episode 150. Orders. Grab yourself a steering wheel, sit down tight, drop a cog in your fez bomb, and accelerate to 88 miles an hour as I ask these gentlemen, what you been playing? Seb, what you been playing this gaming week?
I got a question before I get to what you've been playing. Is a pot noodle any good? Because I've never heard of this in my life, so I had to Google it really quick, and I'm intrigued. It just looks like a bowl of ramen noodles.
It's an overpriced pot of instant noodles that not only facilitates the arrival and distribution of noodles, but also serves as the eating vessel for the noodle. Now, if you've get yourself on the Discord and get yourself in the Culinary Delights section, and you'll see that Bobaloba recently destroyed what's known as a Bombay Bad Boy. To me,
they're lethal.
I look at a picture of a chili in a book at about a distance of 9,000 yards, and I sweat profusely. If I was introduced to the Kelvin level scale of a Bombay Bad Boy, as this thing is called, I mean, it sounds like an Indian gangster, doesn't it? A Bombay Bad Boy.
It really does.
Okay. This is Bobaloba's staple diet, and how he doesn't get haunted by a spicy food ghost the very next day. I don't know how quick Bobaloba is to digest food, but one would imagine the hangover from a Bombay Bad Boy far outweighs the moment it spends delighting your tongue with its... It's probably full of MSGs, isn't it, and all that other stuff. But I prefer the Japanese legend that is the cup noodle.
Yeah, they're nice.
Noodles.
I've heard of a couple of noodles. I'd never heard of pot noodles before.
Sponsor of Spider-Man, the original Tobey Maguire movie. It's on the billboard in Times Square. Cup noodle. You hit rock bottom when you're living on cup noodles and coffee.
Gotcha.
Welcome to my life. But pot noodle, no, it's like the UK variant of a cup noodle, but probably slightly lower rent because it has no illusions of grandeur.
Okay. I can dig it. So I've been playing lately a little game called Persona 3 Portable. It's recently come out to all major consoles. It's not trapped on the Vita anymore. So I am able to play this game on an Xbox with, the Xbox Game Pass app right now. And I'm loving it. I'm absolutely adoring this game because I played Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, and I spent way too much time into those games. I've probably played a total of 120 hours into the Persona 5 games. And so, yeah, just mowed through that, completely got my feel of those. And whenever I heard this was coming to Game Pass, I decided, hey, I'm going to go back. I'm like, I want to see kind of some of the origins of this series and kind of seeing if the old games still hold up well and if there's a solid story there, because I hear so many good things about it. So I dove back into Persona 3 and I'm loving my time with it so far.
I think that was the real start of Persona as we know it now. If you went back to 1 or 2, you'd see the roots, but you'd be like, oh my goodness. Whereas 3 is the beginning of the good stuff. 4 was like the icing on the cake, especially when you play that on original hardware, PS2, and it looks, all those menus that people saw in the Vita version, how wonderful it was, how things flowed, exactly like in Persona 5, the transitions and everything. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. It makes it very nice. And on PS2, especially on launch, that would have been a phenomenal experience. Even today, it feels fresh and new. But then when it launched, it would have been unlike anything else. And I think that's probably what stands up most for it, the presentation for sure. But I'm glad that, in a way, it's fantastic these games are maybe finally finding an audience. It's a little bit like the Yakuza franchise. It went through 4 or 5 games, especially in the West, of just being that game that your mate played or he didn't really know much about. But then, it started to ride a bit of a wave, and now the games are quite rightly found the audience they deserve. And I think that Persona and Yakuza are on a similar track in a way. They're finally finding that recognition that I think they deserve, which is nice. And I'm glad. They're just straight ports, so aren't they? There's no jazzed up bits or bobs in them at all, from my understanding of these re-releases.
No, you're playing Persona 3 Portable. That's the edition for Persona 3, and then Persona 4 you're playing the Golden edition. So it's like the souped up version for Persona 4. But yeah, there's no add-ons or anything like that. You're just playing the best possible, state of the game as is. But it is one of those things to where like the new features for like the modern day consoles really give that game new life, because like the quick load times and the SSDs just make that thing feel zippy. Like I haven't had a time that I felt like I was playing that game and I had a moment to where I can pick up my phone and be distracted by something going on in life, because I'm just immediately transported into the next thing. And it's just like,
that's good.
Yeah, it feels modern in that way,
Good. Anything else, or is everything else under the radar sneaky stuff?
Yeah, everything else is more so reviewed, and I'll share more about it in the upcoming episodes. So we'll get into that in the weeks to come.
Excellent. Okay, RGT, what have you been playing?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you like video games, podcasts, and reminiscing? I'm actor, video game writer, and total sweetie pie Connor Savage McCabe, and on each episode of Call Me By Your Game, I sit down with a guest for an intimate look at a special game from their past. Did you and your dad beat Spyro the Dragon over the holidays? Or was Halo 4 the one thing that united your roommates during your senior year of college? Stories like these are what Call Me By Your Game is about. From video game content creator Janet Garcia to Hades voice actor Courtney Vinay's, I interview wonderful comedians and game industry friends about these memories. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe someday you'll call me by your game.
Of a Stella.
What?
I'm on the final boss. I just can't quite beat that final boss. I think I've worked out why. I think I have to hit him with a special move on the last hit. So I'm getting the health bar completely gone, but the boss isn't dying for some reason. But yeah, so I'm on the very fun. That's it. I'm at the end now. 115 hours in. I think I'm on the very last bit. So I want to get that finished. But I've also, because I've been off work, I played the Gardens Between, recommended by Ginge on the Discord. I played.
That's on premium, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah. And I played and finished that this week. That's a lovely little puzzle, sort of with that little niche twist where you rewind time. You don't control the two characters, you control time around them. So you literally only have one button and your analog stick, and you have to work out the puzzles. So you'll forward time round, but you might need something that is further back. So you'll rewind it, collect that, go forward, unlock bridges, bits. And yeah, it's a lovely little story, lovely little sort of indie title. You really enjoyed that. It's only a quick game. I mean, you'll You'll get through it in 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. But lovely little game, definitely worth a go if you've got premium.
Did the 3-hour
extra,
one?
I think it's on extra.
Did the 3-hour single playthrough yield you a platinum trophy or no?
No, you've got to go back and do other little bits and pieces unless you read a guide and do it through in one go. But I think there's certain things you've got to do, in certain ways to trigger.
Is that the one with the little islands on it?
Yes.
Was that in the PS5
I think it
Pro
originally
mode reel? It was, wasn't it?
might have been. I think
I don't remember this one in the PS5.
No, I remember it coming out. I think it came out on Switch first. I might be wrong with that, but I'm sure that came out on Switch first. And then that came onto PS5 straight onto the.
It does look good. I like the art style of the individual islands that you find.
It's a lovely little
They look
game.
beautiful.
It's basic, but quite a cute little story. I enjoyed that, and it's quite a unique idea, and I think they done it well. It's great controls for what you're doing, which is unusual controls, but they work really well, and definitely recommend it for a playthrough. But yeah, I played that, and then I played. Finally finished Stray. Went back to Stray, finished that.
Were you far from the end? Did you do with me?
No, I was about 20 minutes, half an hour from the end.
Did you have to rescue your robot friend and then walk to the end of the game, basically?
Exactly. Well, yeah. But I enjoy. That pulled on my heartstrings a bit. I did like the end, and the cat had. I felt. Yeah, I really liked him as a character. I think he's brilliant.
I think
really like
I
that.
was a bit sort of not. I don't know why this got me. It probably would have got me harder if I'd played it all in one sitting. Which
I felt that as well. Definitely.
When little robot matey sort of sacrifices himself, and the cat just sort of lays down, sort of snuggles into him.
Yeah, I know.
And then you can leave him there for an undisclosed. You can go back and lie back down with him. But when I did it the second time, it felt a little bit like I'd slid in next to a corpse and didn't feel that appropriate.
But yeah, that do pull on your heartstrings a bit. That bit.
What's the cut-off time for lying back with a corpse?
Is there one?
Well, I don't know, because to me, when it first happened, I was like, "That's beautiful. That's that's a nice goodbye." But then I walked around and did some things in the lab, and then went and did it again by accident. It was.
You're also talking about the game here, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
But then when you walk past him, there was an option to press triangle again, and he bedded back down with him, and I was like, "Oh, as sweet as it was the first time, I wish I'd not put that option in there, because now it just feels a little bit. I don't know. It felt a bit misplaced."
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but yeah, good. Yeah, I'm glad I finished that. That was good. Whether I'll go back and platinum, don't know. 2-hour speed run. Don't know if I could do it in 2 hours. I think I'd put about 9 hours in there.
A 2-hour speed, I suppose, if you knew
where to go. I think that's pretty feasible. I got two follow-up questions for you, RGT.
Mm-hmm.
My first one is, do you feel like after playing Stray now, it should have been higher or lower on your Game of the Year list?
I will, because I had such a gap before putting it on my list, and when I played it last, it would be higher.
Okay, it would be higher. It's because if it scored higher on yours, it probably would have gotten a lot higher on the cumulative list as well.
Yeah. I think if I'd have finished that just before we done our picks, then it'd have been in my top 3, I think.
Oh wow, that would have changed the complexion of everything.
What the?
Yeah, I did that. I loved that game. I thought it was unique. They're trying something different. I really enjoyed that. It's brilliant. Really
it needed a few more legs, in excuse the pun, for it to have scraped up the list, though. Surely.
No, I enjoyed that. I think that's a brilliant game. I think sometimes you got to reward uniqueness in games, and that was definitely unique, I think.
My second follow-up question is, what does life look like for you after Harvestella? What does post-Harvestella life look like?
A barren, empty, unfulfilling mess.
You've
been playing this game as long as I've known you at this point. So I'm trying to see. I'm like, what is life like afterwards?
Well, that'll take me on to my next game, which is I've played a little bit of FIFA in between, but we won't go into FIFA because we know George was reserves on FIFA. So I've played a few games of that. But the other day I was thinking, right, I need to give. Because I was going to play. I kept saying I was going to play Live Alive, and then I thought I need to give the PS5 a bit more love. I haven't given it. I was sitting there crying in the corner. I've been on the Switch just sitting there watching me. And I thought, right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to play Spider-Man. But I'm going to play PS5 version that you got with Miles Morales. I'm going to download that, and I've been hitting that hard the last 2 days. So that is life after Harvestella. And I'll tell you what, I'm playing it on 120 hertz on the performance RT mode, 60 frames, and that looks phenomenal. That looks
4K or
yeah. That looks phenomenal, and that they've done a great job with that game. And it's just a joy to play again. I mean, it's been a couple of years since I played it, so it's been a long enough gap not to find, I'm repeating it.
Wait, do I need a 4K 120 hertz TV? Is this what you're telling me?
Have you not got one, George?
You
host a podcast and you haven't got one.
Unbelievable.
You call yourself a gamer?
I got a new set with a PS4 Pro, I think. 4K 60, HDR, all that good stuff. And to be fair, it's still a good set. Black level's good, I
never realised my TV was 120 hertz. I've got a LG 65, I can't remember the code, but anyway. And I thought I was going to have to change it. And I got a PS5 for 120 hertz, that's the way to go. And I just done a test on there. I did, it's 120 hertz. I thought, wow, I didn't even know. I didn't know if that'd make that much difference, but it's so. I find it's especially when you're swinging through the city. Whereas if you're playing a standard PS4 version, that quick motion, if you look to the sides, you'll see that sort of bit of blur. Whereas on this, it's just complete clarity. It's completely clear. You're swinging through the city. Oh, it looks absolutely stunning, especially at sunset. It looks so good. But yes, I'm hitting that, and I've really hit it hard. So first of all, I've done all the radar towers. Then I've done straight off, and then I went and done all the backpacks, and then I've done all the landmarks. I've got all them trophies out of the way.
Best way to play it.
Yeah. And then just level myself up. I've done all the Fisk bases as well. I've only done one mission. I've done all those already. So
I am on PS4. That's how I played that.
Same here.
And then back to back it straight away with you had to, for the trophy, you had to do another run through on ultimate difficulty with a new game plus save.
Yeah.
And obviously at that point in time, I avoid all the collectibles and just absolutely nail the story.
Yeah.
And when I got it on, obviously I got Miles, the Ultimate Edition, which came with the remastered version. And it's just stayed on my hard drive. I finished it all the way through once. I'm on my second playthrough, but it's a game that I just leave sat there that when I'm a little bit like, what can I do? I fire it up, have a little swing around, do another mission. So I'm looking forward to finishing that.
Going back to it, you don't realise when you go back to how you forget how good that game is.
That game
it's phenomenal.
That is. I mean, they've absolutely nailed Spider-Man. They've nailed how he speaks and his jokes. The city, I mean, it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
The actual story and the voice acting and motion capture within that as well is really heartfelt. There's some moments in that game where I shouldn't have cared, but I did.
Yeah.
Because of the weight of the effort they'd put into it, the script, the individual actors giving it their absolute best college try.
Yeah.
I thought it was wonderful, really good. And it's a game that I probably should be sick of. What now? 4th time through, maybe more. And love it just as much as I did the first time round. That opening as well is sublime.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. But that's what I'm going to be hitting hard. Like I say, I must try and finish Harvestella. But yeah, Spider-Man's where it's at the moment.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do another playthrough of that game before Spider-Man 2 comes out. But I'm trying to wait until I know what the release date of that is, so I can kind of plan that out ahead of time and maybe hit the month before, or maybe the weeks before.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to replay that as well.
Yeah, good idea.
Nice. Okay, well,
George, what have you been playing?
I was going to say the only thing left for me is to tell you what I've been playing. Unfortunately, Seb, one of your predictions has not come to truth. Maneater. I'm still playing it.
What?
Ooh, really?
I
fell off that game hard when I played that.
But only in bite-sized portions. Because the majority of my time has been invested in... I need to be careful here. Known for hyperbole, call it what you like. I have platinumed F1 Manager 22, the greatest game of all time.
I thought you say you were going to be
the greatest game of all time. It's not the greatest game of all time, far from it. But do you know what? It was fun. I did another couple of seasons, I think. So Charles won another season. no bother from other teams on the grid. We're that far ahead on development now. It's not a problem. Started the following season super strong. And I think we're sort of 100 points clear. It's at this point when the trophy pop for the pit team thing, though, that I actually, this is the noise I made. Oh, thank God.
So how long did you just do one season to get the platinum, or did you do?
I was in my third season.
Oh, okay.
But
How
that would have
many seasons
been
are there?
infinite. As many as you like.
Okay. So it's like a sport. It's like a sports game. You can keep going for as long as you want.
You can keep going, yeah. And to be honest, just give a snapshot. Lewis Hamilton drives for Aston Martin now. Seb Vettel's ended up at AlphaTauri.
A few years in the future then.
Yeah, some non-name drivers have appeared out the lower leagues and they're starting to appear. Charles Leclerc's pretty much done 3 championship wins and world drivers and championship constructor wins back-to-back for Ferrari. Carlos Sainz has been second every single time. So the dominance of the Ferrari era is very much in effect. Forza Ferrari. So other than that, I've been sort of dabbling with games. I'm in that sort of weird inter period where I'm kind of like, I know there's some big games coming. There's stuff to look at in the form of Hogwarts, there's stuff to look at in the form of PSVR 2 and the games that are going to come with that, or I will try off the back of having that. So I pick a game up and then I put it down again. Like I've downloaded and had a go at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I don't know. I got given my first fetch quest, and it immediately grated on me. I was like, "Oh goodness gracious me, no!" And then the acting of the modern day characters was so
that's egregious.
That was bad. So naff. I actually thought, is this done for laughs? Because then you go back to the historical setting, and people are playing it pretty straight. But the acting of the people in the modern day just turned my stomach, to be honest with you. What else have I been? So Maneater has actually been the high watermark for quality in the games that I've been sort of digging around at. Had a little play, finished it. Again, this is probably the problem I'm having. I thought, I'm going to download Uncharted Lost Legacy. So I started playing that, and then I got so far into that and was like, as good as this is, what I'm desperate for right now is something new, an experience that I've not had.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, I've been thinking this. I'm still in mourning. I'm still in mourning. I've had some great game experiences since, but I'm still in mourning for Jedi Fallen Order. So I'm hoping that Survivor lives up to the hype and certainly to at least the standard set by the first game. Again, I had a little foray into that and played through the opening section of a New Game Plus, the Scrap Planet, and then you go to Bogano and you learn your skills and bits and bobs, and it still feels nice. It still feels good.
Yeah, they get the atmosphere right in that game, don't they? They set the whole Star Wars universe perfect. The sound.
Bogano should be the most boring planet, but to me, it's like my Dagobah. Yeah. It's where I go and I learn myself. So I'm at one with myself and I practice my skills and my wall running and my saber skills and other bits and bobs. I think, this is exactly what I want. Some of the other games, one thing that always hit me with that, and it refreshed my mind about it, when you first play that game, it's very tightly draws you through the tutorial with some very close sequences that make it feel like it's going to be a linear action game, which would be fine. But then it throws you into like the open world sections of the other planets, and the graphical quality sometimes in places falls off a cliff. It feels like Opening Planet looked incredible. The textures were high. It was raining, which always makes video games look good. And then straight into some planets, which look like they're lifted from an early original Xbox game, which, I'm hoping that the consistency, and I think this will be something, because that game had issues when it was put together. I think we covered it at the time of launch. And I think hopefully this time round, the team can feel buoyed up because the game was a success critically and from users. It was very well received. And I'm hoping that this allows them to bring everything that they learn and hopefully protect that. I don't want to see too many new gizmos added in because I think the story flow and the combat was perfect.
Yeah.
My concern is that when video games get sequels, the developers just go to the volume dial and turn it up to 11. And I sometimes think that that's a bit much, and sometimes they could dial it let's say it was a 9 and they dialed it up to 10. Perfect. But sometimes they can overdo it, introducing all these new mechanics. Oh, we don't want people to get bored. We need to come up with a reason why. This is a classic video game trope that's frustrated me in the past. You've spent hours leveling up this character in the first game. All of a sudden, the second game starts and they can barely lift a paper aeroplane. And it's like, oh, but hang on a minute. That's not great. So I'm hoping there's a little bit more transition. Anyway, that's not what I've been playing. That's what I've been dreaming of playing. The reality is what I've been playing is a rather mediocre AA shark simulator game and a Formula One manager game. Do I have to hang up my hat as a podcast host? Probably not. Let's face facts. Games played does not equal podcasting power, thankfully. With that all said and done, gentlemen, if you've got nothing more to impart, before we head into the news, I want to let everybody know that Bobby's off this week. He's not very well, so I hope the community gathers round to wish him the best and welcome him back next week. Going forward, off the back of the news, I forget the placement of items within a show I've been working on for quite some time now. But we've got RGT's Hidden Gem, we've got Seb's Indie Legend, and we're going to have Bobby's Easy Platinum going forward. So each host is going to bring a little special something to the table.
I hope Bobby's first one is F1 Manager.
You can go off people real quick in this business.
I'll get me go.
No, don't. It was an easy platinum if you know about F1. I'll be honest, and I think I've said that from the start. If you follow F1, you watch races or have watched their races in their entirety, and you know the levers, i.e. tyres, fuel and battery preservation or use, and fuel preservation and use, and tyre preservation and use, and generally where upgrades on cars bring the most performance bang for buck-wise, easy platinum. If you pick a good enough team at the start. I picked, of the top 3, I picked the one that I saw as being in the lowest position, Ferrari, and enjoyed that journey. If I played it as Williams, that's more of a long-term burn. I can't see you getting the platinum for maybe a real-life decade. On that, easy platinum. Do you know what? The shame of it. My name is Mayo 1 and 2, Burly Men at Sea, this, whatever else. I don't even care. There's news. We scour the very darkest regions of the internet to bring you the latest stories. First up, I Am Inevitable. Support for Marvel's Avengers will officially end on the 30th of September 2023. Developer Crystal Dynamics has confirmed the live service action game will just be 3 years old by then, having launched for PS4 and Xbox in September 22. You'll be able to keep playing the game after the above date, both in solo and multiplayer, but there'll be no further updates or additional content beyond that point. What's more, it won't be available to buy on digital storefronts. Oh, wow. Starting on the 31st of March 2023, all market, challenge card, and shipment cosmetic content will maybe completely... Now, this, when I read this news initially, this made me feel quite burnt, will be made completely free to all players, which you would imagine is a nice gesture, unless you paid for it, the front end, in which case now you're going to feel slightly ripped off. This will occur alongside the launch of the title's final update, which promises gameplay balance adjustments. A little too late, boys, if I'm being honest, but whatever. It goes without saying that it's been a rocky old road for Marvel Avengers. A frankly botched marketing campaign led to a decidedly muted launch, and the title has struggled to break free from those first impressions ever since. Even though the experience as a whole has been significantly expanded, some would argue improved, through updates and DLC. Still, Avengers has its fans, and it's always a shame to see a project like this eventually tap out and call it quits. We can't thank you enough for your support and for being part of our super team, reads developers' farewell blog post. Are you sad to see Marvel Avengers go? Did you ever play it? Gather some heroes and Zoom to the Discord to share your views. Gentlemen, Marvel Avengers, on my much storied relationship with this game, the one-player section at times was absolutely beautiful. And an enjoyable experience when it was a story game, a la Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think most people can agree they got absolutely right. That timbre of those beats were in that Marvel Avengers game, but sadly, when you put the bolt-on arena sections either side of them, it loses its teeth quite quickly. And once complete, my care to carry on that rather inane babble was pretty low. Seb, what's your relationship with Crystal Dynamics' Marvel Avengers game?
Like you, I enjoyed the campaign. I didn't love it, and this is coming from a guy who is a massive fan of Marvel comics and a massive fan of the MCU in general. But like, as a massive fan of Marvel comics and someone who grew up reading comic books his whole entire life, I felt like this game was blasphemous almost to that point. I felt like this game represents a step backwards to what we didn't want in the video game industry to begin with. Like, I am a person who firmly believes, like, I absolutely think one of the worst things in the gaming industry right now is microtransactions, is the games as a service model, and this was everything that felt wrong with that model. It felt like they were just cashing in on the Avengers name and not necessarily giving a product that both gamers could appreciate and people who are fans of like Marvel centric content can appreciate. So on the flip side though, and you mentioned Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, I felt like that was a good game. While was it perfect, I feel like that is what we kind of want out of a Marvel IP franchised game versus this, to where this is a game that doesn't appeal to anyone in particular, because like you tried to like straddle the fence of being a single player game and a games as a service, and thus you did both audiences unfairly as a result. And I feel like this game
kind of understand about
the wheels.
That this era of doing things, if this had launched in the 360 PS3 era, it would have been a single player game. And then they would have had that other section to keep it a live post single player with that multiplayer action in it. That would not have been egregious to me. Mm-hmm. But what was egregious was the way they tried to force those two things together. Do you think the game would have had more legs in your eyes if they'd made it a solely single player game with the section that was the online bit where you went from single player on a menu, beep, beep, multiplayer, and then you went in and you played it that way? Would that have been more appealing to you?
Yeah, it would have immediately been more appealing. It wouldn't have had more legs per se, because like a lot of single player gamers such as myself would have probably got in, played the campaign, then got out and never like played this game again. But you know, I feel like this game's like crux was also like the content. Like, it was a slow funnel of content that they basically pushed out. Like, you can't have a games as a service game and have like that slow trickle of content, i.e. like Halo has done with Halo Infinite. You have to hit the ground running and continuously funnel out content, like almost at a month clip at this point. Like, if you're not putting something out every other month, you're basically failing as a games as a service now.
Well, you know, Marvel Avengers stumbled out the darkness into a world that was lit up by Fortnite, where they release new skins, characters, and hats on an hourly basis, let alone daily, let alone weekly, let alone quarterly, as Crystal Dynamics did. And there was a lot of love. And I'll tell you what else has changed. There was a lot of love for Marvel when that game stumbled out. Since then, the Marvel universe has gone through a little bit of the cinematic universe has gone through a little bit of a strange time as it transitions between phases. And I feel that's also hurt the game. The Marvel universe, correct me if I'm wrong, Seb, doesn't feel as buoyant and as strong as it did at the end of Endgame or, you know, Infinity War. That was when it was probably at its absolute peak, and it was riding high at that point. But since then, there's been some less well-received films, and that latest Thor movie, my goodness gracious me. Although Thor's individual movies have never been strong, that one was... Oh, wow.
I think things are going to change for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because like I think that a lot of people are going to gravitate towards having a central antagonist. Like we always knew that Thanos was coming in the first three phases. Like, that was like a central through line to where like everything had a main central plot, even though they were like splintered off stories. Now that Kang the Conqueror is probably going to be that that central antagonist going forward. I feel like it's sort of going to have that momentum, because if you remember correctly, phase 1 of the MCU wasn't like, just didn't come out of the gates like super strong. It had Iron Man, but then it had also Iron Man 2, it had Thor, and it had Captain America. Movies that weren't necessarily like setting the world on fire in their own right.
Don't forget the buried now, for the sake of continuity, Hulk movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, that phase almost like phase 4 almost mirrors phase 1 in the sense that, you know, it's kind of finding itself, and I feel like phase 2 is going to be the mirror of phase 5 that's coming out, to where like they'll kind of find their footing. But, you know, like going back to the Marvel's Avengers game, it's too little too late. They released too little content and a too late of a clip that people who would have cared about it didn't want to go back to actually play it. Like they put out the Lady Thor content way too late. They put out the Winter Soldier content way too late. Spider-Man was exclusive to PlayStation.
What a car crash.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm like, it was just, it felt like poor management more so than it was poor development at that point.
RGT, talk to me about your experience of Marvel Avengers.
For me, I'm not big into superheroes. I'm not really big in the Marvel universe. So
well, you are one, aren't you? So obviously, it'd be like reading it'd be a bit of a busman's holiday for you.
Exactly. But so for me to play a Marvel game, I need to hear good things. I need to have it recommended. And for this, I never really heard a lot of great things about it. People I knew played it were quite dissatisfied most of the time. So I never played it. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, I played that. It was recommended by you, George. And Mrs. RGT heard you recommend it. She bought it for me and I played it. I loved it. But for this, there was nothing in there for me to go into.
Well, I would say then,
a bit of a car crash of a game, to be honest.
Listeners, if your significant other needs to, and we need the listener numbers, let's face it. So everyone needs to get their girlfriend, mother, brother listening to the game, and then they can get game recommendations to get you something for your birthday or Christmas.
There you go.
Let's make this a thing.
I got
a family show,
you, George.
Yes.
But based on how the reception for Marvel's Avengers, based on the news that's come out this week about the Suicide Squad, do you feel like this is going to be, like Marvel's Avengers Part 2? Because the Suicide Squad is a games as a service game. Like
I pray for them that it's not, but something tells me it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And for that reason, they're about to take a legacy that's pretty good at this point. They made kind of one or two other games before they took on Arkham Asylum. One of them was an innovative shield-based police action strategy game, which actually was good, impressive graphically and all that sort of stuff. So far to this point, everything they've touched is golden. I've got a funny feeling that studio greed has backed them into a corner, or it's hard. When you make a game, obviously you have to take a litmus test of where the world is at that moment. When you decide to commit teams, budget, money, playtesting, getting people to playtest the games from outside of the business as well, to actually, you make a decision on the kind of game you're going to make today in the hope it will be well received. Excuse the words, but tomorrow, in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, whatever the incubation cycle is. And recently, as we've seen with Gotham Knights, those decisions based on gamer attitudes that time ago, or what was hot at the time, Fortnite was launching, PUBG was launching, all these sorts of online games were launching, where it was starting to feel like it was the vibe again, much like in the 2008s when every game launched got a multiplayer bit crammed on the side of it. If you'd have stuck a wet finger in the air at the time, and he said, yeah, well, now we've finished Batman, do a quick wet finger in the air. This looks like we're going to need to make a games as a service game. Okay, crack on, boys. Sadly, the gestation period of that game has been far too long. And I think when it actually arrives, there's a strong chance it could be dead on arrival, unless there's something solid in there to keep the single player contingent happy. Because if that multiplayer literally is just skin grind, I can't imagine anything worse, to be honest.
Yeah.
If I'm being absolutely honest. And if I'm getting like a premium Amazon edition and getting like a special hat for Harley Quinn or this exclusive skin for King Shark, it's going to happen, isn't it? I don't know who I'm kidding with this. I don't know. Who am I trying to kid? There's all these things are going to exist in the game. I think hopefully within it, buried somewhere, is a great story that can be enjoyed with friends or alone. I live in hope of that. But the fear is real.
Mm.
I'm so disappointed because, like, this is Rocksteady, man. Like, this is the team that gave me probably one of my favorite games of all time in like Arkham City, and it almost feels like following the trends rather than setting it at this point. And there's a strong argument that, like, you don't need to do a games as a service game to be a profitable studio now. Like, we've seen a lot of single player games just take off and lead the campaign. Elden Ring was one of the best selling games of 2022. And
that's true. And how many studios, right, at the time of Elden Ring's launch, the litmus test? Oh, right, that's the sort of game we need to make. I guarantee you in 3 years' time, when these Elden Ring clones launch, we'll be done with them.
Yeah.
And there'll be another game that decides to row its own boat that comes out of that time that makes the Elden Ring clones look embarrassing. And sadly, I think the industry, and this comes across TV and film, and I think we might have talked about it before, it's all based on an Excel spreadsheet of what's safe. It's all based on an Excel spreadsheet of what's bankable today.
Yeah.
You need to secure money from your parent company or a bank or, within your own business. Sometimes you have to put a pitch together to get access to your own money in a studio. So they've gone and said, oh, okay, what's big at the moment? This check, that check, that check. We can see models in the marketplace to suggest this will pay out X amount of cash. But you can only base a model on known quantities. You can't base a model on unknown quantities. Therefore, originality in film is dying, originality in TV is struggling, and originality in games at the major studios. Because when you get so big, the accountants run the business, the artists don't, sadly. Because there's too much money here for someone who likes to paint or draw characters to really have a say on the idea. Although it was them that got us to this point, we now run this business via an Excel spreadsheet. And your new original idea, nothing else exists like that out there. Therefore, we can't say whether it's a flop or not. Therefore, you can't have any money. You can't make it. And that is throttling the living hell out of the industry. The better video games do in the scheme of entertainment, the more restricted they end up being. Yes, we get some absolutely massive big budget games and we're very grateful for those. But that individuality, that spark, I think I'm worried it's starting to get meted out of the business, which is a shame.
I think your worries are valid. You do have the indies, though, that I feel like the indies are kind of like the creator's paradise, so to speak. Because
they are the creator's paradise, but because of the lack of budget, they always end up being retro styled. They always end up being roguelikes. You say that the indie business brings us new and innovative ideas, yet every time Stingray rocks up on a weekly basis, he opens the boot and there's 15 rogue clones in there. It's like, this is affecting them just as much as it's affecting the bigger boys. So they can be more individual, but still get a little bit nervous and think what pays roguelikes pay. Let's do a roguelike. So
I think
if there's one in the boot this week, sad times.
I think you're going to see a change in the industry, especially with Unreal progressing as it is. I think you're going to see a lot more of those 3D models that kind of like you see in the AAA games. Only time will tell, but I feel like with the games becoming a little bit easier to make with that Unreal engine there, I feel like you'll see a new wave of a new style of indies.
And I think that's important. And don't forget, for all that I've sat and knocks like service games like that, the only reason Epic has been able to create something as amazing as Unreal 5 with all its bolt-ons and effects and all that sort of stuff is basically because the pinata-like Fortnite has sucked money out of 8-year-olds' wallets worldwide and actually enabled them to make something, Unreal's always been a good platform to develop a game on. Unreal 5 is something that you can make look absolutely incredible. The fidelity of that Unreal 5 trailer was phenomenal. To think that I could rock up with a game studio tomorrow and have that in my toolbox is pretty
It's
amazing,
game changing.
really. It is game changing. And again, sadly, majorly bankrolled by games as a service. So
Yeah, for sure.
you got to have the yin and the yang.
No.
Okay, I think, as a news article, which was just a throwaway bit of time for me to laugh and joke at my nemesis Marvel Avengers, we've done a deep dive on a whole slew of the industry. Who wants this next piece of news?
All right, I'll take it.
You can take it, Seb. Yep, I'll do the last.
Yeah,
Strip to the waist and fight, guys. That's what it looks like to me.
I don't want the smoke. Go ahead, RGT.
Right. News like this is just never easy.
Never easy.
Never easy. This week has been dominated by the news that 10,000 people are being laid off from Microsoft's workforce. And Xbox boss Phil Spencer has responded to the news in an internal email that was shared by I can never say their name. Kotaku, that's it, earlier today. In the email, Spencer acknowledged it has been a difficult week for Microsoft, calling it a challenging moment in our business and explaining that the actions of the past few days have been painful choices. This is a challenging moment in our business, and this week's actions were painful choices. The gaming leadership team had to make decisions that we felt set us up for the long-term success of our products and business. But the individual results of those decisions are real. I know that hurts. The head of Xbox went on to explain that there would be many opportunities over the coming weeks for Phil and the leadership team to answer questions from employees, stressing the desire to be as transparent as we can. Moving forward with ambiguity is challenging, but I'm confident that together we will get through this difficult moment in time. He finished off the email by thanking everyone for their deeply appreciated work. I'm confident in our future and proud to be part of this team, but also conscious that this is a challenging time and we want to thank you for everything you do here. We still don't know the full damage to the various Xbox divisions as yet, although there has been suggested that Halo Studio 343 Industries has been hit particularly hard by the job cuts over the last few days.
I just think it's bad timing. It's bad timing for them. As a whole, Microsoft have to make decisions. Fair enough. Okay, it's big business. When you're employing, I think it was decided it was like, 10,000 people in the Xbox workforce. To a business that has that many people, he probably doesn't feel that much. Down on the individual side of it, it's very painful. And I also think the timing is a bit bad taste because the Xbox division, it's got some good stuff in the works. And I feel like 2023 was going to be its year to pop. And now those people, they'll have the name associated with that brand, that franchise, that game that they were working on. But
have they said why yet? Have they said reasons as to why?
I think tech companies, obviously,
it's happened across the industry,
is linked to.
Because 10,000 is a chunk, That is I know it's probably not so much of their staff and as a whole, but as a one-off unit of people, 10,000 is a.
I think the weird thing is a lot of businesses up-resourced in staff during COVID because the big tech companies did really well. Games did really well. PlayStation and Xbox subscriptions were up. Netflix subscriptions were up. Everyone was getting used to this new way of living. And obviously, as human beings, we always decide that the way we're living today is the way we're going to live forever. Unfortunately, COVID went away. These staff at these divisions probably hit slightly by the cost of living, and the only place they've got headroom to make cash again. And again, this is the grossness of a floated company, because you need to make X amount of money. Shareholders need their money. Where's it going to come from? Well, we'll just lay 10,000 people off. God forbid we go to the shareholders and say we broke even this year, so you ain't got dividend. Is that okay? Everyone's been paid.
Yeah.
But it's a no-go. So obviously they've got to cut some heads. Where they came from within Microsoft, we have yet to know. But I think it's just really bad timing. Like I say,
especially because they've got a big year lined up, really, and they need a big year.
And Phil and Xbox have worked hard to change the game. They've brought Games Pass out for right or for wrong of the industry. Your opinion on that is probably irrelevant at this moment, but Yeah, I just think it's a shame. I think they had some really good stuff in the pipe, and not only from an individual level of like where's my next paycheck coming from, but the individual level of like having slogged your guts out on a character model, on a level, on some coding, whatever it is, to be robbed of the chance to see that go out and be associated with it. I also think it's a shame because
especially if them games release and there's issues with them games, straight away people are going to be saying, "Well, hold on, you've got rid of 10,000 staff. Now you released a game that isn't finished properly." I'm not saying it will be. I'm hoping they come out and I'm hoping they're bangers.
It'll be interesting as well. I don't know what you think on this, Seb, but it'll be interesting as well to sort of see where these cuts are coming from. Because let's say some of these cuts happen to Bethesda, who's recently been acquired, come in, best will in the world. And then some people that might have been with Bethesda for their whole working life suddenly find themselves as part of the Xbox acquisition now sat on the sidelines. That's big business.
You're referring to Bethesda, right?
Now, this show has a history of this one word, and I am steadfast. I became a fan of their games before people even talked about them on the internet, and therefore my pronunciation of how they think they should be pronounced is my pronunciation. But yes.
Okay, we're referring to the same studio, though, right?
We most definitely are.
Okay, making sure.
That's why I say things like hyperbole and not hyperbole. It's a long-running...
It's a bit
50 episode thing, but yeah, it's a bit. If you want to, you got to dig in the back catalogue to find the backstory to all these
community corrections.
It's been in before; it'll be in again. The rise of Bethesda, whatever you want to call them. That's fine. We get off topic, but potentially someone from the newly acquired Bethesda, whatever you want to call it, finds himself on the job market. Yeah. What's your take on this news?
Okay, so from first and foremost, my hearts and condolences goes out to everyone affected by this news. I hope you're able to bounce back really quickly from all this. I know there's a severance package there, but as someone who's been laid off before, it's never easy. So shout out to you. Keep pushing forward, keep your head up, and take all the time you need to recover from this. So that said, there's been a big story in tech over the last couple of days about, a lot of companies, Google, Microsoft, the company Alphabet, and Capital One are doing insanely big layoffs in tech due to the innovations that have arisen in AI technology, because the AI technology is basically able to, quote unquote, meet some of the demands of what was being provided by human input beforehand. And it's a big story going on MSNBC, on pretty much all the major outlets right now, that, the future of tech is heavily leaning towards AI. And unfortunately, the human element is sort of being, slayed as a result of that.
Do you know what makes me sad about that? This is a moment where AI is taking away a job from a human. Now, this is with a pinch of salt, so hear me out here. Basically, a job where a human being sits down, doesn't do a great deal. The ultimate perfect human job, really, for the modern world. And everyone feared that robots would be coming in and taking away the physical labor jobs. So it starts at one end with AI, and then it's going to start at the other end with robots taking physical labor jobs. What's left for humans to do other than just sit around, get large, and play video games? I don't really understand where the human being's going to fit. And the human being is the one who has to generate money to pay for the content that's being created.
Have you seen WALL-E?
I have.
Okay, you remember at the end where they had all the fat humans who are in the chairs?
Yeah.
That's what I see here, sadly, Seb. Pixar nailed it. But how a human being generates money if they can't physically labor at a task, and then all of a sudden maybe a low-end office job has suddenly been taken away because chatbots fixing it for them. It's a bit of a worrying trend. And to axe a large amount of employees to be replaced with what's basically an intelligent Excel spreadsheet is a little concerning.
It is. Especially when them employees probably developed the program in the first place.
That's scary.
And You know,
And there's a lot of things at the moment where people are typing into an AI art thing that says, "Oh, draw me a picture of Han Solo on a unicorn," and bam, the AI will draw you a. What's next? Do I sit down and I talk to this machine that's plugged into Unreal 5 and I say, "Make me a game about pirates with this, this, and this," and it's just 20 minutes later it spits out a playable version of that game. Is that the future for gaming?
I think you're describing Skull and Bones.
Yeah, I am. And that's about as successful as syphilis. So, it's a good return on investment for me. Yeah, that AI thing.
It rubs you the wrong way for a reason. And, it does feel inhumane in a lot of ways. And it feels like we're not necessarily thinking about our future as our placement on Earth, so to speak. So it is very much a worrying trend. And again, I hate it for everyone involved in all this, and I do worry for where we're going, and not just in the industry of gaming, but in the world, because again, I don't know where our placement is if this trend continues to go upward.
Agreed, and it's something that's accelerating as well. 2 years ago it was whispered merely as an idea. Today it's an actual living reality. If technology continues to grow mass in that way, 2 years from now.
Oh, speaking of which, before we move on to the next topic, did you see the completely there's only one person that works in the, this completely autonomous McDonald's now? It's here in Texas, one of the prototypes for the new models of McDonald's. Like here in the Austin area, they have at McDonald's, it is just one person that's working in there. And the rest of it is completely done by computers. Basically, you go in, you enter in your order, and then it just like the little chutes that come out of the bank where they have the money that comes down to you in the little chute thing. You know what I'm talking about? They have the food that comes down and down to you as well. So when you get a chance, just check it out. Google it about the one person run McDonald's.
Wow. So there's a machine flipping burgers, they basically automated all the machines, so the milkshakes, the drink dispensers, all of that, and then robotized it to come out the window at you. Unbelievable.
You were talking about the blue collar kind of position being, the next on the chopping block. And that sort of reminded me of that story that I read a week and a half ago. And I was like, oh crap, it's here.
That's true.
Around the corner.
It's nibbling away at this from both ends of the spectrum, and I came into this thinking we were going to have a little bit of fun with the Well I Ever Never, but it's actually turned into this really morbid future where human beings probably get paid for their time in some weird way, but not directly for work. He watched this program last night, therefore he saw 4 advertisements, therefore he's had X revenue points put in his folder. Life's just becoming an app on a phone, a bad app, where it's you want some more jewels, you're going to have to watch this advert for this thing you're not even remotely interested into it. And eye tracking technology is going to tell us whether you actually stared at the screen or not. And if you didn't, then sorry, pal, you've sat through the ad and you're not getting paid. So you have to sit there like a zombie staring at it, I just need to get paid. This is not what I would call a good future. But someone will pat me on the back and say, yeah, but George, it costs you for time. Yeah, but time's the most precious resource a human being has available. And where they channel to put that time, either into a loving family interaction or into their work or career, is about the only choice we have left.
Scary.
RGT. Fire up the Batmobile, something needs done. This last bit of news, friend. Again, it's a little bit sad, but I think it's important that we include it in the show.
I think Seb's reading this one.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Master Chief is going absolutely nowhere. It's been a rough week for Halo developer 343 Industries, with reports suggesting that the studio has been hit particularly hard by recent layoffs at Microsoft, and speculation that Halo might be passed to another team outside of 343i in the future. Well, that's not going to happen. Today, 343 Industries studio head Pierre, what is that? Hinties?
Don't say hentai. I would say his name's Pierre Hintz.
Oh, I like that. Hints. I'm gonna drag that out. Say it one more time. I like that.
Pierre Hintz.
Hints. Okay,
Hintsy.
confirmed that the developer will continue to work on Halo now and in the future, promising much more to come from the franchise. Halo and Master Chief are here to stay. 343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including epic stories, multiplayers, and more of what makes Halo great. Although we don't know the full extent of the layoffs, it sounds like there has been quite the sizable restructure inside 343 Industries, with various ex-employees taking to social media to reveal that they've lost their jobs earlier this week. Halo Infinite head of creative Joe Staten also basically reported leaving the studio to return to Xbox Publishing. Although Joe says his current focus is to help people who lost their jobs find new great ones.
It always gives me a lot of satisfaction when I read a story about a studio having to restructure or lay people off, where one of the guys' main aim is to then rehome his employees in good jobs. I actually think that's respectful. So absolutely fair play to Joe, and obviously Pierre's probably involved in that as well. Also, you got to say to yourself, at somewhere in point in time, as much as we feel for the people that are being laid off, being told to make that decision in a business is not one that's light either. Normally it falls on the people that have to interact with these people on a daily basis. So that manager's probably walking around with a cloud over his head for 2 weeks because he got told the news. Then he's basically working through a list of colleagues that have basically become friends, deciding which one he's going to kick down the road. That's not an easy decision, and one that's probably filled with guilt. It's going to sit around for some time after. So fair play to them for trying to grease the wheels to help these gifted people. Anyone who works in the video game industry, as far as I'm concerned, is very gifted. It creates a lot of hours. Yes, you get to be creative, but the slog involved in that to an outsider probably seems very unrewarding. But obviously only they know the feeling of creating something new, a work of art, for want of a better word, and an interactive work of art. You don't just stare at a video game from one angle. You stare from it from 360 angles, and it needs to look beautiful in every single one of them. And sadly, you can't just make something that looks beautiful in the video game industry. It has to play well as well. So it's, you can make a TV show look beautiful. You can do all of that. But the video game industry has that added level of technical difficulty that means it has to be played with well as well. So, fair play to Joe for putting all that together. And obviously the people at Xbox have had a really tough time this week or over the past few months, because this is obviously a decision that's haunted them since December, probably, about who they're going to let go and how they're going to do it. So they are the enemy because they brought AI in, but at the same time, they're painting themselves as a good guy as well. Like I say, it's a shame because this year was going to be a great year for them. And lots of exciting things on the pipeline that they've been beavering away on in silent, because we've not heard a lot from Microsoft really on games. So there's been so much hard work going on for which, they can't even say what they've been working on. So I think, it's going to be a tough time, but hopefully they get absorbed into other studios and they get to continue with that skill set. Thoughts on RGT 343 Industries? To coin an episode from Buffy, where do they go from here?
Very good. I don't know. I mean, with this last Halo, I've seen a couple of people actually in the Discord that put on their stories on Instagram this week, and I think there's been a new. I'm not a player of Halo, but been a new update, and they were very disappointed with that. It's been, this latest Halo it's been a struggle for them, and that they haven't got the audience. It didn't release great. It didn't. They were going to bring in even the couch co-op mode. That never happened. They knocked that on the head. I think the online side was very sparse. So I could, with the struggle they've had, I could see something like this happening, but it is such a shame. Because Halo is a great franchise, If they could claw really, maybe take it in a different direction or something, but have a, I'm not sure with the multiplayer games that are out there, that's the way to go nowadays. I think, could they do a really big story mode again, like Halo 1 or 2, or bring back a really big, something like that, get it back on track. But it's a shame. And for them people losing their jobs as well, it's tough. In an industry that is relieving people, that's a tough time.
Yeah, I think there's more to play out from this yet. I think with maybe, a couple of weeks from now, I think there's going to be some other stories that come out of this. Maybe some announcements and bits and bobs. They're going to need to fill some of the the black hole of news, negative news that they're struggling with at the moment. They're going to need to fill that with something, and I think therefore an announcement of something's got to be around the corner. We're
getting the Xbox Direct at the end of the month.
That needs to be a banger.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I absolutely, like I said before, my heart and my condolences go out to everyone affected by this news. I absolutely hate it for you, and I hope you recover quickly. That said, I don't think 343 is the right studio to helm Halo anymore. Like, I absolutely don't feel like that, and I hate to say this in this moment, but like, this is coming off of Halo 4, which was just poorly received in all facets. This was coming off of Halo Infinite, which released really well, but never gained any traction like it needed to as a games as a service with the multiplayer, as a not quite what we want out of the big step forward that we wanted out of the campaign, because this was supposed to be Halo's version of God of War 2018. This was supposed to be their Breath of the Wild. It had to be, because there was so much riding on this game. There was so much riding on it for Xbox, because Xbox's catalog needs a banger. It still needs a banger, and that's why the pressure's now shifted from Halo Infinite to Starfield in that way, where Starfield now needs to be that banger.
Definitely.
If you've drawn Master Chief's helmet so many times to this point, I think what they would have been better off doing is sort of giving Halo a soft reboot and moving it from internal studio to internal studio. Here's XYZ's take on Halo. Here's XYZ's take on Halo. Here's Rare's take on whatever that would have looked like. Banjo Halo. I don't even know. But they should have moved it around more. I think sometimes in studios, God of War's done well to avoid this, really. But if you've been working with and on the same character and environments for pretty much your whole career, you're going to be a bit bored.
They don't have that excuse, though, because Bungie was working on them.
Yeah, they were.
Bungie was working on the first trilogy. They only got grandfathered in with Halo 4 and up. They don't have that excuses. You know?
But from then to now, that's a lot of Master Chiefs they've drawn.
It is, but let's be real.
And from now on in, they are the Halo studio, so they don't get the chance to do anything else. And I sometimes wonder with these studios that make a living working on franchises that have succeeded before, or they've been successful and they've kept working on them, you must get bored.
You do, but there's still that certain quality level that has to be met as far as what is expected of that IP and what that IP means to the whole household studio as well for Xbox. Look at Destiny, for instance. Destiny's been drawn that same heads that are very similar to Master Chief at this point for damn near 15 years, it feels like at this point. But they are still putting out quality, and that fan base is still happy.
That's what I feel like if they'd let Bungie just do a little bit of something else, Bungie would still be here, and they'd be coming back to revisit Halo, and everyone would be going crazy for it. Bungie had that eye for detail and they had that initial passion, but they just wanted to do something else. Instead of seeing that as something that should be applauded, it was seen as a crime. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand. If I went to Microsoft and said, I know your Excel budget spreadsheet tells you that and we're back to this again, tells you that the next Halo is going to be a banger. My guys ain't got the creativity left in them to do another Halo. Please, we've been working on this idea. Can we do this? No. Halo or nothing. Oh, okay, then it's nothing. See you in a bit. It just seems very cut your nose off to spite your face. And if I was working in a studio and let's just say I finished work on a God of War Ragnarok, brilliant. But then the head of the studio comes down and says, we're going to clear the decks of God of War, and you guys are going to work on a small Geometry Wars type game, just for a bit of fun. Going to lob it up on the marketplace, whether it happens or if it does great or not. No one really cares, but at least you get to be creative in an indie style with this one game. And now you can settle down and do this project or this project or this project. It's your call, but we need to see one of those in the next 3 years. All right, okay, no problems. At least they've been able to flex their creative talents a little bit more. And I think if I was head of a studio, Stingray's Rentals, as I am now with my fantasy draft, I would I would have them do a palette cleanser. Much as I when I finish a game, or if I decide to go and play through a series back to back, I need a palette cleanser before I can enjoy the next one, because it's all very samey. And I feel like these large studios could do with a few palette cleansers, just they get off that loop. Because
Can
as
I
soon as the
interject?
game, of course you can.
Oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt. I don't mean to be rude, but like I feel like studios are starting to lean into that, because like especially on the Xbox side of things, like one of the like most well received games over the past like 3 months is Pentiment, which was done by Obsidian Games, who you know their pedigree. So I'm like,
Yeah.
they were able to do that palette cleanser game in Pentiment, where it's completely different than anything they've done before, and gameplay wise, it does still have that nuance of telling a story in only Obsidian's way of doing so. But like they were able to do, like you were describing, completely do something that's in their wheelhouse, but also very different than what they've kind of done before. So it's the palette cleanser effect there.
And I think that's important, because not only do you learn something new from that next thing that's completely outside of your wheelhouse, you can then bring that experience into your next project, which may be completely different, but you've learned something, you've experimented. Within Pentiment, there may be like a new HUD they're working on, or they might need proof of concept on the inventory management or the transition between scenes, or whatever it is, as unrelated as it might seem, is going to add something to the next game. And it's to let them experiment, I think, is very important, because from experimentation comes innovation. And from there, we have a new game style, a whole new franchise, which, we need new franchises.
Yeah, and to your point, we've seen several different studios do this before. Naughty Dog, well, it wasn't quite like an extreme, like they got to do something different. They did get to do Lost Legacy before they went back to doing the Nathan Drake games. And, like with Spider-Man, where with Insomniac, they get to do Ratchet and Clank, like, and then go back and forth between Spider-Man and now Wolverine coming up.
And as much as Ratchet and Clank was a hark back to one of their older games, I think it also enabled them to mix things up a little bit. And how do we know that some of that tech won't find its way into the next Spider-Man, Wolverine?
It already has. Think about it. You can choose your technology in Spider-Man. That technology wheel, that's the exact same thing from Ratchet and Clank.
Exactly. So it's interesting to see this development, but also be encouraged. And Xbox has done this before. They go on a massive acquisition of studios, and then they get all these studios that they don't quite know what to do with them, because it's almost too much to manage all at once. And we're yet to find out what's going to come from the initiative. So
that's my point when I was making this whole thing, is just like, I would love to see 343 do something completely different, and maybe someone else take the helm of Master Chief and maybe take it in a completely different direction. Or maybe like with Halo 6, they can give their interpretation on what's next for that story. Like if you don't want a soft reboot, you can tell what's next. Because if you look at what like Gears of War has done really well, is like they're making Gears of War games, but they've refreshed it just enough to where it feels different, where they added like an open world-esque kind of concept to it, where they've added different characters and different like protagonists that make it kind of feel in that same world, but feel slightly different. So I think there is that middle ground, because like that studio has been doing Gears of War since the beginning of time. Like 343 doesn't quite have that excuse of saying like, hey, we've been doing this, we're extremely burnt out, because like so many studios have been doing that. I think they need to manage an IP better, which I feel for everyone who's affected by this, but I would love to see what else they can do in the industry outside of Halo, is my point.
Yeah, well, one man's trash is another man's treasure, isn't it? From this layoff might come some more startup studios. It might be a new creative head at a smaller studio, and then all of a sudden the next big game comes out of it. So, these things normally have a knock-on effect of producing something good within the industry. It's just a shame initially that there's a lot of pain and emotion involved. That brings us, I think, in a rather panorama-like news episode, to the community corrections. Of course, flawless victory, as always, nothing to correct. I haven't checked in all honesty, but I don't think there is. But my important question to you, RGT, is: did we miss anything? Do you have an opinion or take on the news we missed? If so, RGT, how would the collected masses get in contact with me and say, George, you really have no idea? And if they want to do that, how would they do it?
They can email us at questions@unofficialcontroller.podcast.com or DM us on Instagram or Twitter, or even better, jump in the Discord. And then
Let's put it out there now. If you listen to this show and you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord.
Mm-hmm. Especially now of all times with the new leaguers coming into
that's
play.
it. Okay. Because you're one of those people sits on the sideline, you're driving down the road in your car, you're working on a production line, you've got us in your earphones. Fair enough. We'll get you through the week, and I appreciate that. But life is lonely. And you've got the biggest collection of new best friends you could possibly imagine, that spread across the world, across every possible different subsection you could imagine. You're going to find a new best friend. Don't tell me, I don't need friends, because you do. Because without friends, life is lonely. Okay, so get in there. Not only are we going to facilitate that by giving you a Discord, we're also going to give you a reason to talk to people, because we've got the fantasy draft. Now, that's just not something eccentrical nonsense that some podcasters put together and put out there and tell you their picks and how amazing it is. Not only can you watch the carnage unfold about how little I know about video games as my fantasy draft falls on its backside, you also get to build your own team and compete in the fan league. And when you win the fan league, you then get to come on the show and win the show league and run roughshod over me like I am Vince McMahon in the 90s era and you're Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're going to spray me in beer and stunner me through 6 announce tables time after time after time again. But you only get that chance to get involved if you get in the Discord and join the league. I mean, it seems simple to me. So your one takeaway from the show, it's not the news. It's not Have I Ever Never. It's not Stingray. It's not Where's Tom. It's not that. Tom's dead, killed by his own tribe in the Amazon. A little bit of foreshadowing. Okay. If you've listened to 150 episodes, that would resonate. Yeah. Just join the Discord. I'm not even going to say please anymore. Okay. This is on you.
Yeah.
That's definitely done. Serious moment out the way. Because shows with games inside are cool. Shows with games that are edgy for fools. Seb, you've been... You didn't know about the ad-lib music that I do? Or you do now? Not. Did you like that?
I liked it. It was a nice jingle.
Okay. I always forget my jingles, so I never get to reuse them.
Do one every week.
Actually, before we get to that, obviously an idiot like me would turn up and try and force onto the next section without completing the first section properly. Because this is one jingle I do remember. Hidden Gems with RGT, Opal Fruit. Gimme your game. So what's your hidden? Because we've got 2 for you this week, fans. We've got an indie hidden gem, and then we've got RGT's more retro hidden gem.
Yeah, well, this week, a game from way back in 1997. This week, PlayStation or PlayStation 1, as people call it now. Original PlayStation by Psygnosis. So you might have guessed it by now. It is a space combat simulator. It is Colony Wars this week. First of 3 games. There's 3 games you can get on the PS1. It looks for PS1 game. I mean, you go back and play a lot of PS1 games now. Some of them are, let's be honest, a bit of a struggle. They're quite blocky. They're different. This still looks good.
It's the texture warping that I think holds the PS1 back from
yeah, exactly. And because this is a space set game and you are in space, there's obviously very little of that because you are in the blackness of space. But graphically, still looks very good. Your cockpit's good. The gameplay is very good. Controls are tight as anything. It's tough. It's a tough game, but it's one of them that are so easy to play and it's quite enjoyable. It's one of them where you want to keep having a go and try and get further. And each mission can have different endings, and that will blanket affect what ending you get at the end of that game.
Really, I don't remember that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, so you can play all the way through there and get a really bad ending, and you're thinking, well, I've now got to play this game all again.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's really highly regarded. It's got a very good score, Metacritic, and I'd definitely recommend it. Like I say, if you play this, they get better as they go along as well. There's, I can't remember the name of one. Is it Vengeance and Rising Sun? You might have to correct me in that, community correction to the other two. And they are brilliant. And you can pick this up. If you want a physical copy of this, you can pick it up mint for £5 to £10. You'll get a mint copy of this on PS1. But definitely recommend, if you like space shooter games, this is a very, very good game to play.
It's one of those. I think I've got that. It's one of those games that you forget that you've got. It is good.
Very good game. Yeah.
I didn't realize it's Psygnosis. I quite often get them confused with. Is it G Police? I know that's set on Earth, but it felt
that was them as well, wasn't it? Was that?
Was it Psygnosis or was it Core?
Oh yeah, it might be Core actually.
Core sort of bridged from Chuck Rock into Mega CD games. That Thundercopter game that allowed you to be 3D, kind of half using some Amiga tech sort of ideas that they kind of leveraged to sort of push them into that next gen.
Yeah,
had that similar look to it. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's for the money. That's a cracking game, and I mean, I do love space shooter games, and I find if you look back at a back catalogue of old retro games, it's quite hard to find a really good, tight space shooter game. But yeah, Colony Wars.
Here's how my mind works. You've reminded me of a thought process I had last night.
Here we go. Buckle up.
Buckle up and fix your crash helmet, because this is controversial. Maneater is basically a flight sim.
Okay.
Navigation through 3D space. It's the same controls as a flight sim. You lock onto targets, you launch yourself, which is basically your mouth, at them, and you kill them. And you navigate through a 3D space doing it. Maneater is a 3D space shooting game.
Yeah, I can see that. With fish.
With fish, you see enemy ships. Yeah. I was also thinking if you take all these filters away and replaced Maneater with a walking character, this would be a very odd.
Are you drinking last night, George? Or
yeah, probably. Peyote cactus. Yeah, it was just. It just struck me as like, you'd only need to change a couple of character models in this game, and it would look completely ridiculous. But yeah, I also noticed last night that the floating garbage, which sort of perpetuates that depth of field, is non-interactive.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some flaws in Maneater, but yeah. As soon as I stopped playing it like a fish simulator and played it more like Colony Wars,
sort of 3D Darius,
it became like a totally different game in my mind, and it suddenly became like a lot more enjoyable, if I'm honest. But anyway, enough of my strange interactions with games. We turn Seb. This is your hidden indie gem, or your indie gem. It's not necessarily hidden. Would you like an intro, or do you want me to just not bother with that for you?
Let's workshop it, and then we'll come up with one.
That's
George.
The most polite. Absolutely no chance in hell. One of your little type intros, George. It's not going to cut it for me.
No. I just want to make sure we have the right flavor for the intro.
High quality flavor.
Yeah, we got to have all. We can't have this be what was it? Pot noodles, so to speak.
So this is going to be. I don't think. I'll be honest with you, Seb. As a human being, I don't think I can create anything above pot noodle.
Can you give me cup of noodles then? Like
I feel like flavor. I feel like pot noodle is me jumping off a building with a glider and sort of not breaking my legs when I land. I see cup noodles as first step on the moon, and that's the difference we're talking here.
Oh, that's a massive difference. All right, we'll workshop this. In the meanwhile, Sebastian's indie gems of the week. So I have one that I've been playing lately. It's a game called Little Gator Game. Have y'all heard of this one?
Is this on Switch?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yes,
Is
it
this
is.
like
have
Maneater
heard.
but with gators?
No, not quite.
It's quite
no.
a cutesy art style, isn't it? If I remember
It is
rightly?
very. It's a cutesy game. But I would say its claim to fame so far is superly heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. It is.
Oh,
You play as a little gator, and the whole crux of it is a cutesy game. All the gators are all the like animals are humanoid, so they walk just like we do. But like you're basically a little kid who's basically trying to get his older sister who's gone off to college and who's come back from like college just on her vacation. So to speak.
Gator College.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gator College, Gator University.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Florida's, Gator University.
Gators, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you're here and you're trying to convince her to kind of like play with you, just like y'all were accustomed to make believe playing with you, like playing with each other, and like where you were the central like hero character, so to speak. So you get the whole entire village around you to kind of like get in on the action of trying to make her and her college friends like play with the community again, play with the community of kids again. But like all the gameplay mechanics are Breath of the Wild inspired. So like there's a climbing mechanic that stamina climbing mechanic from Breath of the Wild. There's the same glider from Breath of the Wild. There is, how like you can surf on the shield in Breath of the Wild. You can do that exact same thing here.
Okay.
It is almost, if you want a cutesy, more chill version with all the mechanics from Breath of the Wild, this is the game for you.
What does a gator parachute look like, Seb?
He basically just takes his shirt off and like whatever shirt he's wearing, and he just uses it as a kind of like a parachute. So
that makes me smile. I love that.
Yeah,
it is really cutesy. Like, it's not going to be for everyone. It's for sure not going to be everyone's wheelhouse. There isn't really a combat mechanic like Breath of the Wild. You can basically go around and fight anything and everything. This is like you fight these creatures that are basically like steel versions of cardboard, to where like they because you're a kid, so to speak, you're make believing and such like that. So it is more so you're trying to like explore the world and sort of like explore the world and try to figure out what's like, how do I get all these people to try to like help me get everyone back into the games that we grew up playing. And as you inspire more people around the neighborhood kind of gets like, which by the way, the neighborhood is an island, gets more into like, hey, we're going to like start putting up cardboard like monsters now for you to take down. We're going to start putting up like obstacles for you to take down, or we're going to create like a massive fort where you get to kind of like raid a kingdom, so to speak. It is a cutesy game, but like
that sounds sweet.
But if you do like want to play like something that's like Breath of the Wild light, I would recommend Little Gator Game.
Brilliant.
Little Gator Game. Only on the Switch now, or is it on other formats?
It's on the Switch and PC right now. I don't know if it'll get ported over, but I'm currently reviewing this one for Switch right now.
Does it play well graphically? Is it doing well on the Switch?
Yeah, it plays well. It's not necessarily going to blow you away, but on the Switch, it like plays well. The load times are, fairly switchy. It's not like you don't have time to really put the Switch down and pick up your phone again. So it runs really well. I didn't notice any frame drops or anything like that. I would say, to me, this is probably one of the best experiences I've had on the Switch in a very long time, to be honest.
Now that
brilliant
is what's known in the industry as high praise indeed. Seb, that's a glowing recommendation. Hopefully all the fans in the Discord will check that out, post some screenshots of them trying, was it Little Gator Game?
Yeah, Little Gator Game. I'll post a snapshot in the Discord later on. But like one thing I know it might be blasphemous to say, this feels like it could have been made by Nintendo as a lower tier first party game, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like it could have been, it has all that love and care there, minus like some of the art styles that Nintendo is like known for, but it kind of feels like it could have been made by like a core Nintendo studio.
Okay. Well, with that all said and done, it's time for our fun and games. It's time to celebrate episode 150. I don't think we've done it yet because we've had some very serious news to navigate. But now we've arrived at the bit that I'm really looking forward to. I woke up bolt upright in bed this morning and said, well, when I have a never ever video game edition, yes, please, I want a slice of that. Because I think you've already worked out, I play games in a very odd way. I think about games in a very strange way. So seeing the unmetered carnage of me getting through a what have I ever never played video game edition, well, that's going to be interesting for everybody. Seb, why don't you give us a breakdown really of what this concept is? Because to some people, they may never have played such a game.
All right, so Never Have I Ever is a game that a lot of people play whenever they're trying to get to know other people in like a party environment. So you basically, like, the reader, the narrator, so to speak, has a phrase, never have I ever such and such, such and such. So, like, for example, never have I ever zipped up my, in between part in my zipper. And then, like, you would say, George would say, yes, I, because he has done that before. Or never have I ever, had an Irish car bomb. Like, RGT, who's like a connoisseur of Irish car bombs, would say I because he's done that before, or raise his hand because he's done that before. In podcast versions, we're just going to,
Seb,
what's up?
I just want to, I don't sound disrespectful, but what's an Irish car bomb?
Oh, my apologies.
Because in the UK, that was something for us to genuinely fear during the 80s and 90s. And now I feel that you've just wielded it out, and it's could be a little controversial, if I'm honest.
I didn't know there was a controversy. This is my ignorance in the culture here. Like, Irish car bomb in the States is a cocktail in which you mix like Irish whiskey and Irish like cream. It is like you mix like coffee and you drop like a shot into like the shot of the liquor into the coffee. My apologies, everyone. I really didn't.
I definitely haven't done the other one. The cocktail
I
might
am
have done,
so
but
sorry.
the other one I definitely haven't done.
I am so sorry, RGT. I did not mean to put
No.
I thought that we're probably going to spend the next 6 hours in the edit suite. Like, how do we explain away Irish car bomb? But it's a cocktail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a cocktail. Like, it is consisting of Irish cream, stout, and Irish whiskey. So you have like my apologies there. I just went to one of the drinks that just popped up into my head, but I didn't know it was an insensitive name for a cocktail. So
whoever named that in the US was obviously an Irish patriot. But that's a strong, that's an awfully strong name for a drink.
Okay. So in video game context, then never have I ever pre-ordered a video game. And then RGT, perfect. If you pre-ordered a video game, you would say that sort of thing. And that is a better explanation. Please forgive me for the Irish car bomb thing.
I think it's better that we start to remember it as a cocktail and distance ourselves from the memory. So well done for changing the concept of what an Irish car bomb is, Seb. It's now a cocktail only and ever will be in my mind. Okay, with that all said and done, I think we've all worked out really what this is. It's time for me and RG to pull up our short trousers, take a seat as we turn to Seb and ask him to ask us. What I never ever. Yeah.
So here's how it's going to work, gentlemen. I'm going to read it out, and George, you're going to be first up. You'll say I, and then if George doesn't say anything, RGT, you're up. You'll say I if you have done this. That way we can kind of distinguish the I's and the nays. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So all that said, never have I ever stayed up all night playing video games until the sun arose. George, have you done this?
I have done this. I've even recorded a show straight after said experience as well, and it was not that great.
It was trippy.
RGT, have you done this before?
Yes, I have. Too many times I've done this. Yeah, especially in my game shed when I've had people round, and I can tell you a little story if you want me to tell you a little story about that.
Okay. Well, what's the story?
It's only a quick one. I had a few friends around, and my brother-in-law was around and said, well, I can't be late because your sister won't be very happy if I'm late back. I was like, yeah, go on, we'll play Guitar Hero, one more round each, play Guitar Hero. And because I have no windows in my game room, we opened the door and it's daylight. So he's then biking back because it's quarter to 6 in the morning. Whereas he thought it was like 11 o'clock. Yeah, so yeah, quite a few times I've stayed up all night playing the game, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
The stories that game shed's got to tell.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
All right. So the next one up. Never have I ever beaten a kid in a video game instead of letting them win against me. George, have you done this before?
So to be clear, when
Oh dear.
I should have let kid win, but I beat him.
You should have let kid win. For example, y'all were playing Super Smash Brothers and you just absolutely wrecked to this kid instead of letting him win. What kind of person are you, George? Let's find out.
I'm a realist. I teach kids that there's no easy wins in life.
Okay, that's the way you want to look at it.
Yeah, because you get in real life and you expect people to roll over for you. It doesn't happen. So why am I going to roll over for you in this game? I just absolutely destroyed you. Get good, son. That's all I'll say.
I feel you. RGT, you're up. What kind of person are you? Never have I ever beaten a kid in a video game instead of letting them win against me.
I'll explain why.
Okay.
Mention no names. There was a kid who was a friend of a friend sort of thing, and I was playing FIFA against them, and I thought I'll let them win. I let them win the game, to which I got a load of abuse from a 9-year-old, calling me a loser in my face, all the rest of it. So I went out the next game, beat them 7-0. Life lesson, son.
It's tough in Britain. I'll be honest with you. It's tough in the UK.
I've let you win. You've mocked me. Right, I'm going to destroy you. So when I went up and went, loser. Now go off crying to mum.
That's funny. That is so funny. All right. To round it out, I've done that as well. I don't think I've been able to time I let a kid beat me. Like, I don't.
Like, if I'm playing,
yeah, if I'm playing a game, anybody can get it. Man, woman, child, elderly, anybody can get it. I'm like, hey, you the one pick up the sticks. You can catch this whooping just like everybody else. I'm concerned. I'm sorry, I got a 2 piece of the biscuit for you too, baby girl.
I'll tell you what.
A 2 piece of the biscuit.
When I pick up the sticks,
I'll tell you,
absolutely brilliant.
You made the life choice for yourself. You go, you come correct or you don't come at all.
You feel strong about that, Seth?
No, you know, just
some of these catchphrases need writing down. If you pick up the sticks, I ain't gonna split biscuit. What was that last one you just said? It was absolutely fantastic.
You come correct or you don't come at all, man.
Come correct or you don't come at all. Absolutely genius.
Like fellas, you don't just go into a UFC ring and just expect your opponent to take it easy on you. No, he's just gonna go ham deep and finish you off really quick. That's the way the world works. That's the way the world works. You don't step in an arena and expect for whoever's a master in that arena to take it easy on you.
You're absolutely right.
You just don't do it. You can catch these hands like everybody else.
The only time I'm a master in the arena is though when I trick kids into playing me so I can win. But anyway, that's it's quite shameful. Whoever's listening to the show, you need to write down these absolute banging WWE style put downs that Seb's just wheeled out. I think I want to see a picture of like a roided up Seb with these comments just all over this t-shirt. Absolutely wonderful. I'll pay money for that. What's next on this? This is only going to go down from here, so I'm a bit nervous.
Gets worse. It gets worse. Like I'm giving you I'm ramping it up from PG all the way down, so it gets worse from there. All right, so never have I ever left a date in the middle of the date to go play a video game. Has either one of you done this?
No.
Not.
This is getting a little gray zone here. Oh my goodness! In the middle of the date, George.
Oh,
not in a date. So let's just leave that there.
Was it what, like a wedding? What was it? Yeah.
No.
Wedding.
It wasn't
left
a
the
date
woman at the
per
altar
se,
to go
but
play a game?
It was more like an interaction, and at the end of it probably didn't go my way, and I just went home and played video game.
Okay, I can understand that.
And while it was going on, I was like, oh, I can't stop thinking about this video game right now. It's just pretty awful, really. It's probably a shock scenario, but yeah, it was a bit weird. But I've never left an actual date to go play video game. That's for sure.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Problem is, I've thought of someone as well. There's quite a few people who know me quite personally in the Discord chat, so I can see a few community corrections coming in. Did you say nay to not leaving someone in the middle of a day? I think you'll find you did, son. I can see that coming up.
So we're gonna get corrections to this episode in the next episode for sure, RGT.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right. The next question, gents. Never have I ever killed a penguin in Mario 64? Did you drop that penguin off the cliff?
Yes.
You absolute monster. Why did you do this?
Because you can.
So it's when I first played Mario 64, I have to admit, it was early in the N64's life cycle, and there probably were guides, but I didn't know where to find them, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those games you got to try this stuff just to see what will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You have, yeah.
Yeah.
If you'd have dropped him off there and a couple of red coins had appeared out of his mother's backside, you'd been like, oh, that's right. That makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
But you
think his mother rewarded you for killing her offspring?
You never know in that game, dear. You never know. Who would have thought racing it belly down a slide was going to be a way of getting a star? Chucking its kid off a roof seems like a pretty reasonable solution to me. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, RGT, have you done this?
Yeah, I was the same. I was you just get that thought process. I wonder if you can. I'm going to have a go. Yes, you can.
Not bad.
Mm.
Okay. At least you felt bad. I
was very quickly over it, Seb, in my defense.
Yeah. Okay. All
and
right,
then reloaded and done it again.
It was an insta-heal moment. Wow. Okay. What?
All right. So next one up. Never have I ever teabagged someone in a video game.
Ooh.
I told you we're going up from here, gentlemen. It gets a little tricky. It gets a little hairier as we go up.
I don't think I've ever been good enough to teabag someone in a game, but there was me, Finchy, the artist who's done the art for the show. We used to play COD 3 together, and in there was a vineyard level. I didn't teabag anybody, but I was the guy that people walk past who was just standing the barrel that you would normally stamp grapes in and spin around. And quite a lot of the time in those early days of online gaming, people didn't know what I was, whether I was a glitched character, whether I was real or fake or what. I didn't teabag anybody, but I definitely won through confusion. So it's a no from me, but I have done some strange things in online game. Teabagging, I'll probably have someone messaging saying, you teabag me. But
they remember distinctively. They're like,
in a game,
that dude. Mm-hmm.
That character there, he's a proper teabagger. But as far as I remember, I don't know, 2008 was a dirty, gritty place, wasn't it? Where lots of things happened online.
RGT, what about yourself? Have you teabagged someone in a video game before?
I don't think I've teabagged anyone, but I'm sure I've been teabagged.
Okay,
I'm sure on.
I've been the recipient of a teabag, but I haven't. From memory, I haven't delivered a teabag.
I'm sure I've played games with at Bald Border, who's on our Discord. He's a friend of mine. He's my best mate, and I'm sure even though it wasn't available in the game, he's managed somehow to teabag me while I was laying on the floor in certain games. I'm sure he's done it, but I don't think I've done it myself. No.
Okay. All right. So next up, gentlemen, never have I ever spent a stupid amount on a microtransactions in a video game before.
What pre-qualifies as a stupid amount?
I feel like if you have to ask that, you spent a stupid amount.
Leave me alone, Seb.
All right. Let's say you spent more than what you would probably spend on, like, just buying a new game outright. I would probably consider a stupid amount and up.
I'm trying to think the places where I've bought stuff like that. And I bought all the cases for the extra cases for LA Noire.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm.
So I have spent some serious money on some of this tat, but not. I will spend good money on DLC, but I'm not going to spend good money on a new eye patch for a pirate, if that makes sense.
Okay. RGT, what about yourself?
No, I think the most I've spent is about £8 or £9. I think on a DLC or I've never really been much of a skins person. Games where racing games, I've occasionally bought an odd car when they have sort of sales and that on. I will admit, I did buy. Is this confession corner or?
Go ahead.
Okay. My name's RGT, and I did buy some DLC for Need for Speed Unbound. And I
did recently.
Yeah, I know.
What?
And do you know the worst thing is? You have to earn it, and then you still have to buy the cars in game.
Oh no! So you liked the game enough to actually spend more money on it?
Yeah, the first week I was really enjoying, and I thought, you know, they get you, don't they? They hang the fishing rod, the little bat. Oh, RGT! Look at these new little cars. That'd go so well in your garage. Wouldn't they look lovely in there? Just nip into the store.
Is that what your devil sounds like?
Yeah, yeah, in my ear. Yeah, RGT.
It's very gentle for a devil, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I know. You know, my devil talks me into it, so it's just like, look, it's only $7.99. Look, you get these three cars, $7.99. Go on.
Have you actually had the luxury?
Mrs. RGT's out. Buy them. Go on. So I bought them. Went to looking for them in my garage. Not there. But, right. So then Googled it, and they're like, yeah, you don't get them till week 3, and then you still got to buy them with in-game currency anyway.
Have you had the luxury of playing with the car that you paid for yet?
No.
Oh wow!
So you have to actually earn the money in game to then. All this does by buying this DLC is just makes these cars available to buy, and they give you a pair of trousers or something and a pair of trainers.
Who says video games are losing legitimacy?
Yeah, so yeah, I will admit to that, and I'm ashamed.
Okay. So just a follow-up question: never have I ever spent a stupid amount of money on a collection edition or artwork or action figures catered towards a game.
I'm covering up the back.
How much was what was the worst amount you ever spent, RGT?
What, on a collector's edition?
On like a collector's edition artwork or like anything extra, like a action figure or anything on a game?
I don't want to be on this game.
It gets worse, by the way, George. It gets worse.
No, I can't get any more personal.
I would probably say, young man up there, Uncharted 4, I'd probably say the collector's edition was my most expensive, which was, I think it was about £120, I think.
Oh, you never catch me spending on a video game.
Oh, George, it's worse? Whoa. How bad was it, George?
I don't.
Oh, here we go. God.
And what was the game? How much was it, and what was the game?
Thing is, I've got that much tat. I don't actually know what I've spent the most tat on.
I know what you spent a few quid on just games alone. I'd like to know what your most expensive collector's edition is.
That's what I'm kind of curious myself.
I don't know because I'm forgetting what I spent on them. I recently picked up the Killzone Helmet Edition. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? You know?
That's got to be for cheap now, though, right?
Yeah, it was. It was about $50.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
But I don't on a collector's edition. Oh, don't Seb. Like I have spent an inordinate amount of money importing MLB Steelbooks at one point in time.
I remember that phase.
Oh, how bad did it get, George? How bad did it get?
I just wanted to start collecting all the MLB Steelbooks. So, really, that's just a simple confession.
Okay.
With the postage and all, these things tend to ratchet up quite quickly to get them here to the UK. So I've probably spent 80 bucks on a game I already owned and then bought the steelbook version of it. Yeah, that's RGT's like, I'm glad the heat's on him for a moment. Yeah, so yeah, some of that tat I probably overpaid for. It's a sports game; it should be $1, but seemingly, it's quite hard to find those steelbook variants. But they're quite cool.
Okay,
they are quite cool to look at if you like baseball. No other thing in there other than this piece of tin with some spray paint on it. But yeah, and a slipcase. Obviously, the slipcase makes the MLB games because it takes it from being a random tin into actually being MLB themed. Without that slipcase, one would wonder what the hell it even is. So yes, I've spent that there, and I've probably got some. I've recently started a rather nefarious activity of, and it happened with Horizon Forbidden West. Really, was the pinnacle.
The Legos?
Of this. No, not the Legos, friend. It was the collector's edition. I ordered it on Amazon. And then Amazon being Amazon, deliver it. So I said to myself, oh, well, George, you really want to play this game on launch? Yeah, you do. Bought it. Next day, Amazon delivered the collector's edition. It's sat untouched on the shelf ever since. Now, I feel that's a little bit naughty, for being honest.
Just a wee bit. And just a wee bit. So moving on, gentlemen. Never have I ever had a special encounter with the Lady of the Night in Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, thank God it was Grand Theft Auto precursor.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Yes. I've been there. I just wanted to see what it would do. And to be honest, that extra little bit of health is useful, right? But as far as I remember, I never took that interaction to the next level, i.e. ended said Lady for the Night and got cash back.
Okay. All right. So RGT, was your situation very similar?
Can I lie or
No. This is almost the equivalent of you being in the confessional box at this point. You know.
What did you do to her?
I got my money back. And
how'd you get your money back, RGT?
I took it off her.
Was she still alive when you took it off of her?
Don't think so. No.
Okay.
Yeah, she'd sort of tripped over, and I thought, oh well, I might as well get my money back. She's
tripped over with a bullet in her ankle.
Yeah, I sort of done it a few times.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
Okay. Well, at least you're honest then. All right. So speaking of, shameful things you men have done in games like this, the next one just kind of takes it to the next level. Never have I ever committed in-game mass murder just for the sake of it. RGT, I think I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah, I believe I have.
Okay.
I think what got me on that was the Rampage missions in Vice City.
Oh, those are good ones.
And then you sort of get a bit bloodthirsty and just think, well, I don't need the actual missions. I can just do that anyway. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, you've got a rocket launch and you're blowing up half of Vice City.
George, you're up.
I'd like to say I don't purposely go out of my way in open world games to play the sort of arsehole, if I'm being honest. I think I've said before, and fans of the show know that I'm the guy who drives around GTA universe stopping at red lights. I'm the guy that will get a taxi and just look out the window at the world unfold around me because I like the artwork and the comedy ads, and I like to see what people are doing. And it's always an interesting slice of the game they've created. So I don't, and in the missions, I'm not one that goes out there just mounting curbs and killing people on purpose. I've done it by accident a few times. Obviously, there's collateral damage in these games just as a result of being these sandboxes. But I don't normally go out my way. There's been a few times where I've got frustrated. So I guess the answer is yes.
Okay. I was going to say there was going to be a big butt here.
I was about to say that was a long explanation just to say yes.
I don't sit down. I know a lot of people sit down and just actively just go crazy at everything and everyone and want a 5-star one at level all the time. I do my best to try and be a good citizen, although accidents do happen, and from there frustration kicks in and things escalate. But it's not my raison d'etre for existing in a GTA style game.
I get what you mean. I get bored of that pretty easily. So I never really actively tried to do that in the first place because, like, believe it or not, I actually played GTA 5 mostly for the story. Like, I actually kind of was enthralled into that, like that that kind of like big heist sort of story that I normally don't get to experience in other games. So I think the last game I just went absolutely crazy and went on a murder rampage on was like an indie game called Carrion. Have y'all heard about this one?
No.
Yeah, so long story short, Carrion is like a game where you kind of play as quote unquote the thing, you know, like you're this ambiguous little monster and you start off small.
I have.
Yeah. And you just go around getting bigger and bigger. It's fun. But yeah, that was the last game I kind of played where that concept of mass murder kind of came in.
To be fair, I've played all the Uncharted games.
Nathan Drake is a murder.
They're mass murder simulators. So if that's the case, then yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on then. Never have I ever judged a game without playing it before.
Ooh.
I think I probably have. Over the history of time, I've definitely made decisions like that. Yeah, I have.
That's one of my weaknesses, I think. When it comes to games, I do prejudge too much sometimes.
I do as well. Like to this day, I've not touched Fortnite, and for some reason, it's just my stake in the stand of like I've judged that game in my mind, and I'm like I'm not going to play Fortnite.
I'll be honest, Seb. I think you'd love it.
I probably would. I'm an anime kind of person too. They have a whole bunch of anime centric kind of stuff going on there. I'm just like I am a single player gamer who also doesn't like microtransactions, who also really just kind of doesn't want to play with other people a whole lot. So I'm like, it's kind of
I get that vibe.
There's a whole, I just do not want to play with people a whole lot.
That's pretty much that's me. Yeah, that's exactly who I am as a person. Yeah.
And I feel like Fortnite is like the opposite of who I am as a person. But you know, like I hear so many great things about it, but I've judged that game and I've never touched a single
I recently I didn't personally check back in on it, but I was sort of observing the game. And I think I played it in like 2016 initially, sometime around then. And it was a very simple game. Now, when I look at it, I'm like, crikey, do you know, it's so overwhelming with all these other things in it. I don't think I'd know what I was doing. It was hard enough a concept with the storm to begin with because it was so new and positioning yourself. Whereas now, with all these distractions with NPCs asking you to do missions, you can go fishing, you can drive a vehicle. Like I have no idea where that game's going to end up. But yeah, maybe you'd enjoy it, maybe you wouldn't. But
I got respect for it. You know, I understand why people love it. It's just it's never spoken to me on a personal level. So
me
that's
neither,
why.
Really.
Yeah. So next up, never have I ever rage quit a game because it was too hard.
What's the definition of rage quit? Just turning it off or taking
where you
some sort of anger?
Oh, I'm gonna say just absolutely just quit it. Just like I'm never gonna play this game again. I'm hot. I'm mad at this game. Not necessarily throwing the controller into the wall or anything like that, but like where you were just like, no, that's it. Like I've had it with this game. It's too hard. I will never beat it. I'm done.
Since I've become an adult. Probably less so. I don't sort of get rage per se. I get frustrated. But when I was a kid, in growing up in the world of 16-bit video games, I had a few controls with basically perfect copies of my teeth bite marks in them. Because I would get...
You would bite your controllers?
Oh, honestly.
My God.
I know, and this is me talking who likes everything. And even as a kid, I like to keep everything really nice. So you can see the level of depravity these games took me to. Because I just was so frustrated. And I would make deals with myself. It was like, right, do this, George. You've got to do this time. If you do this, you know what? You can enjoy the rest of the game. You need to get this finished. And I'd make these massive pacts with myself. And it would be like, I'd get myself all hyped up. Little Georgie sat in his bedroom on his own, and then it'd be like, boom, I'll get into the level and I'll die. And the frustration would be so much, I'd bite the controller because I'd be like, I wanted to hurt the SNES for hurting me. I'd be like, ah! Then I'd look at it and I'd be like, oh no, I've ruined it. And I'd be like, why have you done that? Why have you let this get to you like this? And there'd be this whole sort of diatribe with my inner voice saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that, but you said to do it." And then, "Oh, the game, why did it do this to me? I just want to enjoy it. I got this game, $60 then, and now I just want to see it." And then the tears would come in, and I'd probably look down at the control and bite it again. I don't know, this strange urge. Whether I was teething or not, I'm not even sure, but it was a combination. All the, 14.
Bit of a late start, eh, George?
His
The
version of
bite
the Ray
of the
had all
control.
of his baby teeth at 14 years old.
Yeah, I did a deal with Ray for a copy of Donkey Kong Country 2, probably. But it's a shameful, really. But no,
You
I've
never
not.
played any of the FromSoft games, and we're like, no, I can't do this.
I suppose I've got an ongoing save of Bloodborne, but it was more sort of time versus. It wasn't like rage quit. This is ridiculous. It was more like, oh right, I need to go do some more farming to get the materials to have another go at this because I've wasted them all on this one go where I thought I was going to do it. I've never want to play that again. Not to a game that I was invested in. I would say in that regard, probably no. I've seen through some shambling messes in my time just to see it through that probably deserve to be rage quitted on. My Assassin's Creed playthroughs as a large example of that. Have I ever rage quit it?
RGT, what about yourself?
Actually,
oh no, we got a new entry there. What was that, George?
I looked at RGT's face and then I realised that I probably have rage quitted the game before. Although it was a difficult time to play it. It was a game called Snow Runner. And there's times where we would get stuck. Like, the game is wonderful. It's very realistic. And you have to get like these over large trailers across environments really about the width of a donkey. And then you get snagged on a corner for 6 hours going forwards and backwards. And I think there was a few times where I said, I think I'm done with this tonight now, RGT.
I think a couple of times I was on the other end going, George? Hello? George? Oh, his truck's disappeared.
He's no longer online.
He's done. Oh, I'll see you later, mate.
Yeah, so as rewarding as that game is, equally so, it's hella frustrating. And kind of holds back the progression of the game, really. You want to see the next thing that you can do, and that game sort of is so obtuse. What did I call it? Like the Bloodborne of driving games.
Yeah.
Dark Souls of driving games. That's exactly what it is.
That is, yeah.
It's gross. On, hit me up. What you got for me?
All right, RGT, what about you? Have you ever rage quit a game before?
Yeah, not so much rage. I've definitely, even of recent times, I've played games, so I'm just like, do you know what? I can't play this. One of them was Bloodstained Curse of the Night I was playing, and they kept looping me back to this one save point, and I was just like, oh, I can't do this. I didn't get angry or rage quit, but I was just like, nah, done. That's coming off the hard drive. I'll play something else. Yeah. I did have a quick story. I did have a friend who, I won't mention his name. He's a big collector of wrestling things, and he collects all the wrestling special editions. And a few years ago, his collector's edition come out for WWE, and he was in his I can't remember what I don't play wrestling games. I don't know. I think he was in the Royal Rumble or something. He was playing, and he lost it right at the last second. He just bought a brand new big screen TV, 55-inch TV, and he was so angry. He threw his PlayStation 4 controller on the floor. It bounced off a cushion and went straight in the screen.
Oh my gosh!
Of a TV he'd had for about 2 days.
That is insane.
Yeah,
I'd be sick. I'd be absolutely sick of myself.
Yeah. So yeah, he did tell me, but he told me with a bit of a grin on his face. So I did have a laugh with him about that. But I was like, yeah, that can happen if you rage quit quite badly.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that was mad.
All right. So next up, never have I ever disliked a game that is super beloved by most people. So there's a game, everyone's loving it, everyone's talking about it, or it's like a darling in gaming culture, and you're just like, no, I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
I have to admit, and my opinion's changed on it since, as you as you both probably know. When I first played Horizon Zero Dawn, I found that quite obtuse to begin with, especially compared to some of PlayStation's other games. And I was like, I don't really see what everyone's getting with this. And then I parked it completely. And then maybe 6 months later, I picked it back up again. And the magic worked. Sometimes I find that when I get on a video game, when everyone else is on a video game, that I tend not to enjoy it as much. I particularly like to find a game. I know this sounds weird because you're playing it on your own, but I like to have a game that's completely removed from real world. So when everyone's talking about it on social media, it kind of starts to hype a game up in my mind beyond what it actually is.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I find that for the first 6 months of a game, people get so overwhelmed. Oh, it's amazing, best game I've ever played, and blah, blah, blah. And they tend to come out with all these verbose statements about, oh, wow, okay, this has not only got to make me enjoy this game, but it's also going to
live up to that expectation.
Heal childhood diseases as well. And then when it doesn't, it's like, oh, but then when you let that furor die down and revisit the game as a blank canvas, with your own expectations involved, it's, I tend to enjoy it more. Or if I get a game that comes out, Forbidden West as an example, I'll shut myself away and play it, keep away from my phone, everything, and just have my own experiences play out within it. When that happens, I normally enjoy a game a lot more. So there's a notable example, the first Horizon, but it wasn't something that was relegated to the graveyard forever. It did get a revisit. Thank God, because it's amazing.
RGT, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's been a few games I've played where they're rave reviews and people always rave about them, and they're just not washed for me. Ocarina of Time's one of those. And people go mad, and whether it's because I played it, I was late to it, or don't know. I just can't get into it. I'm trying to think what else series. I started playing the Halo series, and everyone said to me, "Oh, Halo 2, you got to play Halo 2, Halo 2." I got about 2/3 way. I played it back to back, Halo 1, and for me, Halo 1 was far superior game to Halo 2.
Yeah,
I think
listen, Halo 2 story-wise, it spends a lot of the first chunk of it on Earth, and it feels a bit sort of drawn down for that reason. I think, the further you get into the game, the more it opens up. But compared to the first one, it's quite restrictive at first. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it's
because I played it back to back, so I had the initial hit with the first game straight away. So I had that new experience, everything brilliant, and I didn't get the wait that people had between 1 and 2. So then I'm straight on to 2, and then you think, well, hang on, that don't seem quite as good. It's a bit rinse repeat, and it's not quite as good as the other. That might be the same reason why, but so I've had a few games like that. I'm a bit like George with that. Sometimes games, that's what's worrying me, changed up a bit with Hogwarts Legacy. I'm getting so hyped for this game because of what you read. I know there's problems with it, but you keep seeing the trailers and the bits and pieces, and in my mind, I have the game set, and then by the time you get to play it, you think, this isn't quite what I had planned for this game. So sometimes it is best to wait and then have your own experience with it at a later date. So yeah, I quite agree with George on that.
That game is, as an example, that game I was hoping would be like a Hogwarts simulator, but it transpires that it's probably not going to be as free as that. I was hoping it'd be like Hogwarts but bully, and then something tells me it's slightly more linear than that. So I think a few people are probably going to fall off of that a little bit. But there's the difference between a tightly woven narrative that you pulled through, i.e. like a film experience or something similar to that, to a game experience where obviously things are a little bit more formulaic. But yeah, I think
still get the bully vibes from it because like bully lets you go from like class to class. In this game, like to upgrade like anything, you have to like kind of like go into each individual class and like decide which one you're gonna kind of like put all your effort into. So I still kind of get that vibe from
I know,
it.
but one thing I think that makes the Harry Potter universe within Hogwarts most endearing is the fact that you can sneak off a little bit. Obviously in Bully, you could skive off lessons to go out to the town or around the school environments. And I don't really feel like, so far I've seen that you're going to be able to wag off of Hogwarts. I think when you're in the lesson flow, you're in the lesson flow. You can't like skive off, put your invisibility cloak on, and then go and explore the Chamber of Secrets or something like that. I just feel like that's going to be off limits unless you get there with the story. So yeah, it depends how free and open it is, but certainly Bully, although it was role playing a naughty boy school simulator. Obviously, Hogwarts, these wizards want to be there and do all that good stuff. So probably be a hard balance to strike between narrative decision and moral decision. But yeah, if it lives up to that hype, amazing. I'll turn my phone off and I'll hide in a little nest with Harry Potter books around me and holding a prop wand, giving it the full Expelliarmus. Someone help me out. Expecto Patronum, I think I wanted to say, but it got mixed up with Expelliarmus, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Expecto Patronus is the Patronus spell, and Expelliarmus is the one where you disarm someone.
What would be your Patronus?
A honey badger. Because just like a honey badger don't care about nobody else. Like honey badger will get like anybody can get it, anybody can catch these hands.
You didn't even have to think about that. That was
did he?
Yeah, you've got that worked out.
The honey badger.
Sure.
Honey badger.
Yeah, I'm like honey badger don't care if it's if it's a bee or if it's a lion. Like honey badger will give anybody these hands, just like I will in Super Smash Brothers or Mario Kart.
If you pick up the sticks, expect to get honey badgered.
Yeah,
That's it. That's don't
brilliant.
pick up the sticks and expect not to get the 2 pieces.
I think my Patronus charm would be a lame squirrel.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think it would see much off at all. If I'm being absolutely honest, it would kind of limp out the end of my wand.
Your Patronus it loves nuts and it just limps out of your wand.
When you say it out loud like that, Seb, yeah, it sounds a little awkward. But yeah, my Patronus limps out the end of my wand and loves nuts. Yes.
Okay.
RGT, what would your Patronus charm be?
Oh, hang on, just a minute. I don't know. That wouldn't be nothing as chaotic as a honey badger, but I don't think it'd be quite as limp as your squirrel.
It's not limp, it's lame.
Lame, sorry. Yeah, I'd probably go to an angry ferret.
Oh, okay, I like that.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
If I was a Dementor, I think I'd be a little bit concerned by that.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next one. Never have I ever bought a game and was forced to eat horrible, low quality food as a result. So never have I ever bought a game and was forced to eat a horrible, low quality food as a result. So you bought a game instead of buying high quality groceries, and as a result, you ate, cup of noodles.
Oh yeah, mate. Yeah,
many times.
Yeah. When I was younger, especially, it would be. I'd bankrupt myself again just to get the late, and it was probably garbage. It was probably Lone Soldier on PS1 or worse, and there's nothing worse than absolutely destituting yourself to get a game, and then realizing that game was awful, and now you're eating not even a pot noodle, probably just like a gone off pepperami you found in the works bin.
Yeah, I think when I used to share a house with my mate, I think Vice City. Queuing up at midnight to buy that, coming back with a pocket full of change and thinking, well, I've got enough for a 4-pack of pot noodles and some cheap supermarket own brand lager. That'll do me for a week.
You make these deals with yourself, though, don't you? It's like, I'm going to skip myself, but obviously I've got Vice City now, so I'm not going to be going out for a couple of weeks. So that's my entertainment sorted. I've made this important grown-up decision. It's just a cover story for the fact that you've blown real money on a kid's toy, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You can't even eat.
Yeah.
Audience members, if you are people representatives from Pot Noodles, if you're listening, we've said your name tons on this podcast today. Well, go ahead and endorse the show because we got plenty of pot noodle stories just ready.
Listen, I'm not going to be picky, but if Cup of Noodles want to weigh in, I'd literally drop kick a pot noodle on a YouTube live video for you. just to put that home, put it over. So I'd do it.
Off a cliff like the penguin in Mario 64.
Yeah, exactly. I'd even dress a pot noodle as a penguin, drop kick it off a cliff. White Cliffs of Dover if you want. We'll take the English legend pot noodle and I shall desecrate it over an English legend, which is the White Cliffs of Dover. I would do it.
Nice.
Okay.
Dressed as a cat.
I got
Why not?
So next
Marketable.
one. Never have I ever had a in-game romantic relationship that I got overly really invested in.
Nice. Me.
Oh, so you never played like the Mass Effect games? You were like, I love this girl. Like, this is going to be the one for me. Or you never played Persona and was like, that's the waifu right there.
No.
You are-
not at all. No.
You're a better man than I.
No. I've never gone.
I have
to that
some
level.
special girls to me in video games. The most recent one that I remember is the blood sister from Fallen Order. I don't know what it was about her, but once she got on board the ship and everything was sort of going sweet, and I don't know why, but I had a little bit of a thing going for her.
You like the little kinky ones, don't you? The blood sister from Fallen Order.
Yeah.
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 I gotcha.
There was something about
What's
it.
another example?
I suppose the closest I've come is probably the dating on GTA 4. You'd tend to, and you'd meet different girls. You'd tend to progress one more than the other, but I wouldn't say I was really invested in it to a stage where I
Pan
thought,
Am from Cyberpunk was one for me.
Hell yeah, let's go. Let's go. I'm
Pan
Team
Am.
Pan Am as well. Mhm.
There was just some of the way about that relationship, the way it developed, that made it like great. Pan Am was a great character. She was well acted and everything was fine with that. But the way the story nuances played out and you got to know her, and the only downside with that game is you could ring Pan Am, but it never really, you're in a relationship with Pan Am. I get up in the morning in the game and I think I'm going to ring Pan Am.
She
And it
don't
was
answer
just
nothing.
nothing. And it's like, right, okay, this relationship's a bit one-sided, if I'm honest, but I still love her very much, and that's how that is. But yeah, I think there's been a myriad of girls in games that I've, going to say gone soft over, but probably gone hard.
Yeah, I don't know how you can play
Really?
Persona and not have that effect. Like,
Persona, the only girl that's really gripped me out of the Persona series is the sort of tomboy. I forget her name now on Persona 4.
I haven't played that one yet, so I'm looking forward
there's
to
like a
learning about
tomboy
her.
in green. I forget her name now. So obviously, not that massive. But the other girls all seem to be a bit. I don't like the obvious ones in the video games, and she wasn't
gotcha.
obvious. There's always the long-haired one that looks exactly like anime, and then there's like the toy boy that's a little bit, the tomboy
Mhm.
that's a little bit more sort of down to earth, and you're expected. And I think one thing that lifted Persona for me was, and I missed, I'll never forget in that there was a moment where you could skew the story because she was like, "Oh, are you interested in me?" And I was playing it cool, so I said no. And then I felt the narrative change, and I was like, "Ah!"
You never get that chance back in Persona either. You never get it back.
And I was playing it this certain way, and I thought, well, she's probably going to be a bit put off if I say yes in this moment, so I'm going to say no. And then it was like, okay, wheeling the bride, the classic Japanese one. Here you go, down the aisle, boom. And it was like, I don't want a relationship with this woman. I want a relationship with the tomboy over there that I was playing it cool with, because I thought that's what tomboy would like. But tomboy now doesn't want to know me anymore, apart from anything other than a friend. And
You overthought it. You should have shot your shot. Should have shot your shot. But now, have neither one of y'all played Dragon Age either? Like Dragon Age or Dragon Age Inquisition? Because Morgan from that game is like one that kind of resonates with me pretty well.
She your babe.
George, yeah. And I thought, George, she would resonate with you, considering you like the supernatural kinky girls.
Listen, mate, I've always thought, I think I initially, again, here's a classic moment for you. Obviously enjoyed Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, enjoyed Mass Effect, and then obviously Dragon Age came on the scene. And I thought, yeah, I could get into this. I don't know what it is about that first Dragon Age game. I think I played it on 360, where I thought it had, when you look at ingredients and you think, this is going to make a meal I am going to love, like better than any other meal I've ever consumed. Then the cake arrived. I had a little nib of it. Oh my God, no, I don't like that. So that's on my list of games I need to revisit, because I think at the time I had young kids, time was low. and the ability to sink deep. I could a game an hour a night, easy. But the ability to sink deep into something that needed that respect, like Mass Effect or like Dragon Age, eluded me at the time. So, yeah, I think I will revisit that game because Dragon Age is something that always piques my interest. But, yeah, Mass Effect, I think I went for... Did I go for Blue Girl? I think I did.
Yara.
Yeah, I went all in on her, so...
Yara. It's a damn shame I knew that quickly. It is a real shame I knew that quickly.
She's obviously
Moving
your
on.
game girlfriend as well.
Oh, she's amongst them. Yeah, for sure. She's among them. Never have I ever gotten super upset that a game was delayed. Let's be real here.
I'm
We've
being
all gotten
real.
upset, right?
Yeah, I think we all have. I think the first example that springs to mind is there was a game called WWE Raw on the N64 and PlayStation 1. It was a claims fighting wrestling game. And in retrospect, it was pretty garbage. But at the time, it was the best we had. Although I was playing WCW versus NWA, thinking, why aren't the WWF handing the franchise to these guys? Anyway, the sequel came out. All the magazines did the usual page shield nonsense and told me how great it was compared to the first game, how all the differences has been fixed and all this, that, and the other. And in the UK, that game just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And I'll never remember the day it finally launched. I also bought an N64, an unofficial N64 magazine to read on the way home. And in that was a tiny little postage stamp sized piece of news that said WCW versus NWO team have picked up the WWE franchise. And it was like, oh. And then I got that home and played the wheels off it, hoping that at some point in time it would turn into that good game. In a way, the sorrow of the delays far outweighed whatever that game could be. So, yeah, there's been times where I've been... When you say upset, though, like, what are you looking for from me? Tears or
No, just, like, you were like, man, that sucked. Where you kind of got down that a game got delayed, because you were looking forward to it. Nothing like too over the top, though. You know what I mean?
In that case, then, yes, numerous times. But that first example was one where I probably close to crying.
Oh, okay. I understand. What about
over a complete mess as well?
I think it's quite a few games I've been. I can't remember titles as such. I know there's quite a few I've been disappointed with, but I think as the years have got on, it's quite the norm to have a delayed game. And and nowadays you think, well, if it's delayed 6 months, is it going to be better than the game that it was going to be? So hopefully it will be a bit more. So you take it on board a bit more. But yeah, it's definitely been games in the past I've been really hopeful. I just can't think off the top of my head, but I know there's games I think GTA 5 was one that kept getting delayed back on the PS3, if I remember rightly. And I'd pre-ordered that, and God, I had to pre-order in for God knows how long, and that kept coming out. No, as you know, it's now out. That's going to be out end of this year. Then it's going to be the start of the next year, and then it's the end of that. And I remember kept thinking, God, I'd love GTA 4 so much. I was just so wanting this 5 to come out. So that's sort of one that sticks in my mind.
Mine was Final Fantasy 15 was one that kept getting delayed, and I was just like, it hit me a little hard because I was like, man, that looks like it's gonna be right up my alley. Played that game, barely spent probably 40 hours in it, and I was just like, this is not for me. This was not the one that was promised. So it was, but yeah, like you said, like
I thought you were going to tell me that you really enjoyed it, because I actually really enjoyed that, and it actually prompted me to go back and play Final Fantasy 13 all the way through.
I like 13. I did not like 15 very much. I guess the boy band aspect of it, I never really resonated with those characters as much as I did like 13's characters, or even like 7 or any of the Final Fantasies really. But like I'm excited for 16. That said, like 16's maybe gothic vibe mixed in with those elements kind of intrigued me a bit.
I think 15 needed to be what 15 was, though. I think
I understand.
It needed it. And that game, from the moment Stand By Me kicked in, that game had me gripped. And I was like, okay, this is
your jam right here.
This is not what I expected from an FF. To be honest, I wanted just normal FF. But I've rocked up and you're playing Stand By Me. I mean, this intrigues me. You've got Dairy, you've got Risque, then I'm interested. It has more sort of 9 vibes to it than it does sort of more traditional ones, I think, 15. It's got that sort of it's not that, I feel like it's gone over well, and obviously we got the Royal Edition and other stuff, and I think the game's performed well enough, obviously, but yeah, I thought it was just something needed to happen. Whether a mix to that real-time fighting was the right move for me, sometimes that part of it left me a bit questionable, but the interaction between the characters, I didn't want the road trip to end, and I actually wanted more things to see along the way and do with my brothers, other than chase down to the end conclusion of that road trip, really where it was going to take you. Because you arrived at that beachfront town, it's like, oh, this is cool. Let's just take a day or two just to chill out. But the side things to do were, I wish there'd been more. I wish there'd been more sort of works of wonder, like the geysers and a statue face on a canyon side, where you could go see, pay Gil to get in and do and look at. I think that would have been great. But obviously, that wasn't the case.
Okay. I can respect that. All right. So next one up. Never have I ever lied about getting off the game in just a little bit. For example, yeah, babe, I'm about to get off the game when this round is over.
I mean, tie that in with my bloody 4 a.m. finishes on the game, and you've got a recipe for disaster right there. Just that. For recently, I've managed to put the one more game demon to bed. And I go to bed like a good boy at a half reasonable time, but I think we're just waiting for that moment where I relax a little bit, and then the game gets its grips in me, and then this whole thing will start again, won't it? So yeah, I'm
on that as well. Yeah, especially for night before my day off work during the week.
In fact, what am I talking about? I've been doing this with F1 Manager and Little Big Workshop, so I never trust the word that comes out of my mouth, to be honest.
No, I'll be night before my day off. That'll be Mrs. RGT will be going to bed, and I'll say I'll just play this last bit, and then I'll save it, darling. Okay, and then we'll both get up in the morning. She'll say, "No, you come to bed then." Oh, about 3.
Oh no!
Minutes ago.
Yeah. I thought you'd come right behind me. I was, but then I'd done this mission, and that led into another mission, and then I'd done that, and then suddenly I realised that it was.
Is that something she says a lot?
Yeah.
Okay, so never have I ever bought a video game and immediately regretted it that same day.
Oh
yeah. Have you seen my shed, Seb?
Oh,
there's been some absolute glittering turds I've brought home. Thing is, you walk in like a newborn father, don't you? With it all wrapped in the bag, electronics boutique game where you're like, oh, little baby, careful. You've unwrapped it dead nice. You've maybe even perused the manual. You're like, oh, this is going to be my next big game. Get it down, split its legs wide open. You put the disc in the tray, boom. And then you realize that your brand new newborn is actually got an inward growing face and its legs are on backwards.
So you're saying he looks like Quasimodo?
I think this guy makes Quasimodo look like Paris's heartthrob.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible.
I've walked in with the collector's edition, nursing it like a baby, and then installed it in the console and gone like, oh my god.
I think I've done it a lot as well. When there's times when especially back in the days when you didn't, obviously you didn't have the internet, you didn't have, you couldn't really afford to get the magazines too often, so you had to literally go by cover
box
art.
Yeah,
you had to go by, look at this. This looks phenomenal. You get it home and you're like, is this in the wrong case?
Literally comes in wrapped in a blanket. The next minute it's being waved like Michael Jackson's blanket out the window. It's like done.
Yeah, definitely. I've done that many times.
All right. So, all right, we're ramping up the difficulty here. Never have I ever played an X-rated game.
Now, yeah, I mean, what's an X-rated game? An 18, or is it like a more sex-based game?
I believe we're referring to the sexual nature type game, because I think I think there's like M, right, and then it goes right up to X.
Okay, well, I have a confession. Back in the days of early home video games, I was maybe 11, 12-year-old boy, And the pirate scene in the UK was pretty extreme.
I
You
know
didn't
where
used
you're
to
going with this.
go to shops and get games. There was a lot of times where your friend would hand you a floppy disk and you'd be like, oh, what's this? It's like, oh, it's game, got it, mate, blah, blah. And, you get home one day, it's Microsoft Flight Simulator or F-19 Flight Simulator. The next day, it's a game called Subhumans in Turkey. If you're into abbreviations, you can work out what that comes down to. And there wasn't full motion video at the time or anything like that. But they'd somehow managed on the Atari ST to loop about 5 frames of VHS or less quality of an adult film. And that's about. And the way you interacted in this game was you waggled the joysticks to make the frames go quicker. So back in the days of the Atari ST and the Commodore Amiga, you didn't have controllers like we do now. You had like these things called zip sticks or Atari style 2600 joysticks. And you would basically plonk that down on a table and waggle the living hell out of it. I mean, if my mother had come in at that point and I'm hunched over a joystick, waggling this
furiously.
The thing is, as well, to the profanity that was on the screen, which, to be fair, wasn't that interesting to me. It was just the curiosity of it, really, like to see a naked, pixelated booby or whatever it was. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not even condoning it. But at the time, we had very limited options. And to a young man of rural England, these things don't present themselves on a daily basis. So at an early age, I ticked this box, Seb, achievement unlocked.
Okay. RGT, your face has been red this whole entire time. I must ask the question.
Yeah.
Never have I ever played an X-rated game before.
Yeah, it's a bit similar to George, really. He had the Atari ST. I had the Amiga 500. I had, and that was a stealth of discs, which I've still got as well. Which were that was quite a high end piracy thing at the time. Everyone was copying discs and passing around.
If you've still got an adult game in that pile of discs, you need to do, even if it's a mobile capture, you need to do a YouTube upload, a live.
Please don't. Do that.
If I uploaded that on YouTube, they would shut me down pretty quick.
Yeah, don't do that.
I had not uploaded that to YouTube. Yeah, it was a little game. You might have heard of it. I don't know if you'd have heard of it, Seb, but I think George might have heard of it, called Centerfold Squares. And
yeah, but what's that X-rated? Because the annoying thing about Centerfold Squares was, oh, really? You'd play the game and you'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna. That's got to be where the boobs are. And you would get that bit, and the square would unveil. She'd be wearing a bikini. Like, there's nothing unsexy about that. But
the version I didn't have, they didn't have any bikinis on.
I can't wait to hear the Discord's thoughts on Centerfold Squares or the more bizarre Subhumans in Turkey.
And being a man of young age, I've never tried to learn a game so hard in all my life to remove them last 3 squares. So eventually I nailed the game so I could complete every screen.
You what? What did you do?
I didn't.
It's so hard?
I nailed how to play the game. Not literally nailed it.
No.
And just to qualify for Seb, was it hard or not?
No, you ain't got to answer that question.
I didn't. To be honest, at the beginning, I didn't find it that hard. But as I went through the game, I got harder and harder. So but eventually you work out how to play it, and then it's not too hard after that because you've seen it all. Anyway, what's the next one, Seb?
Okay.
Yeah. Here's another question, please.
All right. Mrs. RGT might be listening to this podcast later on and have a very interesting discussion with you.
Yeah, if I'm not here
she
next
knows
week.
what to get for Christmas now. There's a recommend Subhumans in Turkey.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Centerfold Squares Collector's Edition.
All right, so never have I ever played a game for an easy platinum trophy.
Does F1 Manager 22 count, or I mean, I've got My Name is Mayo. Seb's face up, George, no, mate. I've got My Name is Mayo and Burly Men at Sea on my roster, so probably yes.
Okay, yeah. If you played My Name Is Mayo, you play that game for an easy trophy. No one bought that game thinking like I'm about to play a game that's going to enrapture me.
Let me have your guts for garters there, young man. Actually, I wanted to see what it was like to exist as a jar of mayo in a strangely futuristic world where really. No, you're right.
You're trying to remember what that story was.
No, they didn't even have one, did it? It was like put the jar on and shake it, take the lid off and shake it, put the jar down, and no, it was awful, but it was an easy platinum.
All right, RGT. I saw a little squirm on your face just now. What was the easy platinum?
My Name Is Mayo.
Ooh,
My Name Is Mayo 2.
So we went back to the double.
3.
There are 3 of these.
Yeah. It's quite a few easy little platinum games for my list.
I'm in the wrong business because I should just be making like easy platinum trophy games for y'all for people like y'all to just get like a couple of dollars off of. Because think about it like this.
The thing is, the PSN store, due to lack of curation, is full of these games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of these games.
For sure. I'm like, you create like one of these games, you sell it for like $2 to $3, and like there's like 6 of y'all probably like within the square county inch. So I'm like, I can probably get like a good easy meal off of just easy platinum trophy hunters.
I've even got if I admit it, I've even got like Jigsaw Paradise and that on there. And
did you say Cheeks in Paradise? Is this the X-ray question?
No, Jigsaw.
Oh, Jigsaw. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought we were going back to the other question. My apologies.
No, there was no
Cheeks in Paradise. Not only it's pervy, but it's easy platinum.
Easy platinum. It's from the makers of Centerfold Squares.
Yeah, okay.
That's a hallmark of quality.
Yeah. No, yes, I've got 1 or 2 easy plats on there, if I'm honest. Yeah.
All right. So never have I played an older game that I knew was bad just because of the nostalgia factor. You knew it was a bad game, but you still went back and played it.
For nostalgia.
Yeah, just to feel again, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm guilty of that. Although, depends what you think is a good or a bad game. Like, I've often revisited Dog's Life on PS2. That's not like a hallmark of quality, but it is a fun 3D exploration collect 'em up game. It's not terrible. I think Frontier made it.
Have y'all not like visited games from your childhood that you remember fondly, and you were like, "Oh, this is a bad game"?
I've not revisited that many from my childhood, just because they're kind of locked away on systems that they're locked away on. But I'm trying to think. The games that I played on the Super Nintendo, for the most part, still stand up as classics today. Some of the games I played on Atari ST, Stroke Amiga, they've probably not held up as well, but they've still got some redeeming qualities to them. And then those games that maybe were rubbish then, I kind of knew it anyway. I think for the most part, people who play games know what kind of feels right and what doesn't. And if I knew it was awful, then I probably wouldn't have gone back to it. Although I've gone back to Shadow Man a couple of times in life, so I guilty as charged.
Okay, because I've admit, like, in my childhood, I grew up in the 90s era, so like a lot of my childhood was based on like the Super Nintendo going into the PlayStation 1 era of consoles, where like that's where my era of gaming started. And I gotta say, that was the era of like all the mascots being thrown at your face, of like, you had like Crash Bandicoot, you had Mario, but then you also had like Blasto. Do you remember that character? Like, little guy with the twirly hair, and he had like a gun. It's a PS1 game. Blasto, it was like Gex, there was Toomba, there was like a whole bunch of different kinds of games like that were like nostalgia to me, but like I know they were bad games.
RGT's got his hidden gem to rewrite next week because he's had Blasto in there.
I'm just checking. That's not that.
Blasto, don't go back. Don't go out and buy Blasto. Do not do yourself like harm like that. But like, yeah, just like games like that to me, where like I know like Toomba to me wasn't a great game, but I remember it kind of fondly as one of my earliest like childhood games.
I think mine was Green Dog Surfer Dude.
There's nothing wrong with that game.
I loved that game. I thought it was one of the best games ever as a kid. And then I watched That's what was I watching? I think I watched in Game Sack or something like that.
Yeah,
And they
they're
were
not
saying-
fans of it, are they?
No, they were saying how bad the game was. And I was like, really? I thought, well, I'd like to get it in the collection. So I rebought it again and played it and thought, yeah, it's not quite as good, but that's just the music and the art style still reminds me of my childhood. But I can see what they're saying. It's not exactly a great game, but that's weird. What you see at the time is a game, but how you judge them differently now. You know, later
Especially
in life,
from that era, like, you know,
Mm.
there was a lot of shovelware. And again, all we had to go on was the box art.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right. So never have I ever caught an STD in a video game before.
Nay.
So not in the Fable games or anything?
No.
No, I'm a nay as well. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a nay.
Same here.
Mm.
Same here. I thought we might catch someone slipping there. So anyways, moving on. Never have I ever been so hooked into a game that I forgot to do something really important in real life.
Yeah. Oh. Ooh.
What, like actually work?
Like maybe work, maybe like if you forgot to pick someone up that you probably should have, or maybe like you forgot to do something you said you were going to do around the house or something.
Oh, yeah. And then that fevered, like, look at the clock and think, can I actually achieve a full clean of the house in 30 seconds? No, I might as well get caught red-handed. I'll carry on playing.
Carry on playing.
Well, they say around here, might as well caught for a sheep as a lamb. You know, so if you're going to commit a crime, you might as well go all in.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the same punishment.
Never have I done something in a game that made me question who I am as a person.
There's been some times where a game has made me do something that I wouldn't normally do, and then that's made me think about who I am as a person. The last game that was most noticeable for that was probably something like Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, same here.
It's the climactic fight scene where I, having been on the journey with both of these characters, I'm trying to keep spoilers down because I know probably some people haven't played it or might want to pick it up off the back of the series, but I just couldn't bring myself to hit the button. And I thought, oh, maybe they're doing that now. And then obviously the other person killed me, and I was like, right, okay, so I do have to do this. I do have to kill them.
That game makes you think.
And I was like, I don't really want to. And I was holding off pressing the button because I didn't want to do it. It was like, oh, I don't want to do this. This doesn't, after knowing everything about them and fully experiencing the journey, this is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in a video game, to pull right trigger or pull R2. I don't want to do it. And then obviously when I got killed, it was like, right, to finish the game, I'm going to have to do it. I thought it might be a bit more nuanced and let it play out both ways, but it didn't. That made me feel absolutely awful.
What about you, RGT?
Same thing as well, I think. You know, a lot more of the modern open world games are a bit more open with, you know, how you lead your story as you go along. But I think with Last of Us 2, that game got you thinking so much, and not just at the end, but the whole way through when you were bouncing between people and just how that world changes people and how that world makes you think to that ultimate climax where you're like, I'm not sure I want to do this. But they deliberately make it so you have to, and I think that's phenomenal writing from that game. But yeah, that's probably the one
That's the most frustrating thing for me, when people, you know, something had to be sacrificed to get you thinking all that through the length of that game about that final moment, and for it to have realistic weight. The fact that sacrifice was done, and then people didn't even, oh, that's so upsetting to me, I'm never going to play this game again, I think is absolute tragedy, because that sacrifice is well worth it.
Yeah. I love it. I love Last of Us Part 2, but yeah, I think outside of that, giving another example, Cult of the Lamb is a game for me that I absolutely really loved in 2022, and it's an indie game where you play as a cult leader for all your little like minions who are all like animalistic kind of like humanoid creatures, and you sort of have to like choose what kind of like edicts to place on the whole the whole cult. So like, for instance, I felt bad for locking some of my like followers up in a cell, so to speak, because they started to like see through what I was saying. So they were like, now they were starting to basically spread discontent throughout my cult, so to speak. So I locked them up, And I was just like, no meat for you. I'm feeding you only grass, basically, at this point. And I was like, I sort of feel bad for who I am as a cult leader, but at the same point, too, you're ruining the vibe, man. Like, so I you're ruining the vibe.
Hang on, is Court of the Lamb like a cult version of Little Big Workshop?
It really is. Like, it kind of really is. It's like, it's Animal Crossing meets like Hades. It's a mixture between those two things. Like Hades in the sense that you're playing like that roguelike game, but then you have to go back and you manage your cult, and the cult leaders like make you stronger because like they basically like prey upon you and such like that, and like you make edicts that like your cult has to follow, and by them following those edicts it also gives you like unlockables to use in your roguelike journey. So it's a really cool loop that they have in that game, and it's probably one of the most addicting games I played last year.
Excellent.
You're looking for new experiences to check out. That one's a pretty good one that'll kind of get you hooked.
I might have a look at that.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
What's next, Seb?
All right, so wrapping up, we got a couple of left. Here we go. Never have I ever played a game while I was drunk as a skunk.
I can't play. I just can't play a video game after consuming really any amount of alcohol. It really stops me from being able to play it. So that's a nay from me.
What about you, RGT?
Yeah, I've played quite a few times when I've had a few sherbets, but I always find that I'll get to a stage of the game where I'm just like, oh, this is impossible. I've had a few crafty ales and I'm like, this is impossible. I can't play it. You get up the next morning, you just wash straight through it. So it's obviously the alcohol is the reason that you can't do this that you thought was really hard level. That when you actually play it when you're sober is actually a bit of a
thing. Is it kind of makes you sloppy, a bit lazy. It kind of lowers down your sort of reflexes, anything like that. You can sit and watch a movie after having a beer, no problems. But playing a video game, I've always found virtually impossible.
Yeah,
I've done really well, like doing this, and also like playing a sports game like NBA 2K, where I know that game like muscle memory at this point. Like it's just like I've gotten to a point to where I'm like, it really doesn't matter what state I'm in. It's like I can sort of just enter in my state of being the inner Seb, so to speak, and just like shoot from any side of the court. And I'm like, I know I made that. I can turn around already and walk down the court. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if I was blindfolded or anything. Like, I just know that game like inside and out at this point.
Is that something that happens often in the Seb household? Absolutely tanked up and then play NBA?
I don't really drink very much, to be honest. Like it might be like once every blue moon. Like last night I did while I was watching the UFC fights from last night. I was like drinking a little bit, but I've never been one to like just get blatantly drunk or anything like that. So nah, not really.
Good man. What's next?
All right. So never have I ever spent more than $300 on games in a single purchase, not including basically not buying a new console at the time. So like you basically have to spend $300 or more without that including like a new console.
RGT, have I done this or no?
All right, and you've come close. I don't think I have in a single purchase of games. I've come close to that. I reckon I've done well over $200 before on games in one hit.
I think I'm in a similar ballpark, but I haven't got to the mighty three figures, not three figures, but $300. I think like, you're throwing in a real eclectic mix to get there. You're taking home a stack.
And also,
at this point, it's like 4 games to get you there.
Yeah, and I think also buying, I collect a lot of retro stuff as well, and as we all know, the prices of that is quite steep nowadays. So
I've thrown down some hard money in one hit. But I don't think I've got to $300. I'm afraid. No. I'm sorry, everybody. I'll try harder next time.
All right. All right. So, never have I ever gotten mad at a game because it wasn't as good as the movie adaptation the movie was based on.
So, like a film comes out and they make a tie-in video game.
Yeah.
And the game's better than the movie.
No. Never the opposite. Never have I ever where like you have like a game adaptation and you're like, why did they make this? Why is this thing even existing? Like,
I mean,
played
that's
this.
a no-brainer. There was so many egregious film tie-ins back in the day. Some of those 16-bit ones were questionable.
Right back to 8-bit. I remember playing Transformers on my Spectrum, and it's just like this isn't like the cartoon.
So unlike the cartoon.
Yeah.
Cartoon.
It's like a 2-bit, two pixel squares of a card, and you went along and that went, and then it was a robot that just hovered. And then it was just platforms. You just kept going along. No enemies, nothing.
Okay.
That was.
So no
I
brainer.
remember.
I've played a myriad. I mean,
Yeah.
Adam's Family on 16-bit. People rave 8-bit. People rave about it. There was a game on 16-bit of Blues Brothers. I mean, how you can make a game out of that, I don't even know, but they tried.
Yeah.
It was awful. And
that's a lot of money now as well. That game's a lot of money, and it is pretty bad.
It's awful.
So-
the only redeeming quality for Blues Brothers 16-bit is the actual pixel artwork is phenomenal.
So okay. So I got the answers from both of you. I'm gonna turn up the heat then. Moving on to the next question. Never have I ever stared at a video game tushy for way longer than I probably should have. Never have I ever stared at a video game buttocks longer than I probably should have.
I'm just going to say Fallen Order and walk away. You know, I've got a relationship with her, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think I'll have to say I think I've done that on a few occasions.
No, okay. All right.
Namely in VR, though, let's just put a skew on this because
More
I've
Croft
noticed
in VR.
any VR game, and it's not just the women, the men as well, seem like tiny versions of themselves. You know, when you meet someone in real life, they're up in your grid, they're big, you know, they've got size, they've got width, they've got weight. But when you play a game in VR, it looks like you're talking to a doll. And the female, it is though, they don't occupy enough space, do they, in the world? So you put the helmet on, you go in there, and it looks like you're talking to a child. It seems very odd.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man is a bit like that on VR.
Yeah, like your wife comes out, and admittedly, she's a hot model. You know, don't get me wrong, but she's not even representative of human anatomy, is she? She's just like she turns sideways, and it's like turning a sheet of A4. It's like, where's she gone? It's ridiculous. And her waist, I could probably get my thumb and forefinger around her waist. It's like it doesn't make any sense. And then even when I tell the game what height I am, this woman looks about 3 foot tall. It doesn't like I don't know what's going on with VR size and shape, but it doesn't at the moment. It's not working. Like Blood and Truth's a great game, but then when you go and meet your family, they all look like primordial dwarves. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think they're meant to represent like actual full-grown humans. So I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, no, he's a bit like that in VR. Definitely.
All right. Rounding out the last couple of questions here. Never have I ever bought a Pro Edition controller before.
I have never bought a Pro Edition controller.
I've bought a Nikon for the PS4, which was about $100, I think, something like that. I tried that on my PS4 Pro, which I might add was a fantastic controller. It was good, but that's the only one. You know, even the new PS5 one coming out is Edge. The Edge.
Yeah, the Edge.
Yeah, a bit pricey for me. I think.
I think that's coming at the wrong time as well. I know it's different metrics and different SKUs, but bringing out another piece of very expensive hardware, where literally 1 month later, I think is a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so yeah, apart from the Nikon, which is more of an aftermarket one, then no, I haven't bought a Pro one. Then.
Yeah. Okay. Never have I ever beaten someone after being handed the unofficial controller.
What a great one! Is this the last one?
Yeah, this is the last one.
Oh, I've beaten. So I've handed them the unofficial controller, or they've handed me.
Either one. Well, let's start with this one. Never have I ever beaten someone after being handed the unofficial controller.
I've beaten someone with an unofficial controller before.
Okay.
Damn straight.
So sensible soccer. I've done that.
Okay. All right. So, gentlemen, we've learned a lot about each other throughout this entire process. I've learned that, you know, y'all have some kinks that, you know, are wild out there, and then y'all have some very reasonable assessments and good judgment. I've learned who you are as a person and as a gamer throughout this entire journey. Thank you for going on this journey with me today.
He's never coming back on, is he, RGT?
No, I think I think we've sort of blurred his vision of us a bit.
To be honest, y'all aren't quite as deviant as I thought y'all would be.
Good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I feel good now.
Well, thank you for organising that, Seb. But I tell you
That's
one
brilliant.
man who would have
Enjoyed that.
answered in the most egregious way to every single question. And the question and the answer would have been different every time we heard it to different people all across the world. It's the mighty Stingray. It's time for a peek in what we affectionately call Stingray's boot, what's nestled between some counterfeit nappies and a dodgy copy of Battlefriend all this week. These are the new release highlights for the week, January 23rd to January 29th, 2023. Listeners, these are out in digital, physical, or will be by the top of Ray. Every time lately you've come storming in here, slamming your brakes on, you're scaring the living wits out of me. Just reverse up a little bit. We're all good. Now you can get out. These are out digital, physical, will be by the time this podcast in your feed, but could be region dependent. Now, based on this week, I see Ray as judge, jury, and executioner on a ill-fated Turkish TV show where they actually killed people for bad decisions live on air. He's come in dressed as that, and he's carrying Wayne Ray this week looks exactly like a sacrificial lamb. I can't explain any more to you than that. I don't know any more about that. I don't want to know any more about that. I'm just hoping that Judge Ray's instincts aren't going to come down on me. So I'm just quietly in the background pointing at RGT and winking at Judge Ray in the hope that he if he needs blood, he's coming for your blood.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
How do you see Ray, Seb?
I see Ray as kind of like it's kind of a weird little thing because Ray kind of looks like the werewolf from Bloodborne, like the werewolves that you fight earlier on in that game, but like he has like his chest hair is kind of exposed to the world there. He has a human head, but a werewolf body. Chest is still a human but all the rest of him is still very hairy. And then like his buttocks is kind of like exposed and because Ray is wearing chaps and like Ray's wearing chaps and
A werewolf in chaps.
He's wearing chaps.
It's like a werewolf in chaps. His like chest is exposed. He's got a normal head, and that's basically how I see Ray today.
So he's basically come dressed
Beautiful.
as RGT when he loses the draft.
Oh, don't. That's been going off on the Discord. Seriously.
How are you seeing Ray?
All I'm seeing in front of me is it's just a floating hand, slightly weathered, scarred hand with love written on the knuckles. It's got a gold sovereign ring and a chunky gold identity bracelet just in front of me, and a slightly nicotine stained fingers with just a Lambert and Butler gently burning down to the
Have you said in the time? I know RGT is going to answer yes. This is a bit of a pervert, really, but have you ever took a deep breath of the Ray? And if so, does the smell match the vision?
Ray is the last time I saw Ray where he was like a man that looks like an upside down bowling pin. Like Ray smelled pretty good. Like you could smell the Ray coming and he just smelled, like fresh flowers, so to speak. This Ray is the musty man. He's a potent man, so to speak. And the werewolf man has some odor to him, and and you can still smell him a mile coming, but it's for all the wrong reasons here.
Okay. For me, Ray smells like space, which apparently smells like burnt steak.
Space don't sound so bad though.
It'd kill you.
Okay, that's true. This Ray's must will kill me pretty soon.
I think you want to be careful with that because he's known to spray it in the direction of people that linger on him too long. So you don't ever look him in the eye. I know you've not made this mistake yet, but avoid direct eye contact with the Ray because
not a skunk.
he'll have you. Like a honey badger, you know. That's Ray's spirit animal. It's your Patronus. I would love to see your Patronus and Ray go head to head. It would be an interesting battle. There'd be bloodshed for sure. Listen, spring stop wow whoa. We've got to say that because I know it makes some people happy. But as I dig into the boot, I pull out a copy, and I think I'm going to make this my mummy because I'm living on the edge. It's Forspoken, coming out on the PC and PS5, January 24th. Forspoken follows the journey of Frey, a young New Yorker transported to the beautiful and cruel land of Athia. Search for a way home, Frey must use her newfound magical abilities to traverse sprawling landscapes and battle monstrous creatures. I took the first game because I really don't want to pronounce the second game.
I knew that. He's sat in the second one. That's going to be me, isn't it? This is me, isn't it?
Monokishi for PS.
Nailed.
For January 24th. Begin your journey to become a mighty samurai mage. In a blend of adventure, strategy, and deck building gameplay, choose how you will follow the way of the Monokin. Explore the Celestial Islands, build your deck, and battle challenging demons and protect the land from forces of corruption.
Thanks, Ed.
Question I've got for you. This is out in the boot today, Risen. When's is Risen like an old PS3 game, Xbox 360 game?
I'm sure I've got that on PS3, I think. Risen? Or unless it's just the same title.
I think it's a remaster and not a very good one of a game from the 360. I should have researched it, really. Seb's on it. Stats. Whip a 9-year-old, Seb. What we got?
Risen was a game that came out in October of 2009. It had 2 sequels, a Risen 2, Dark Waters, and a Risen 3, Titan's Lord.
Yes. It's getting a little bit slow upstairs, but eventually it comes out. Yeah. Risen.
Right, Risen PS4, Xbox One, Switch, January 24th. The island Faranga needs a new hero. You delve into a gritty, raw, and atmospheric fantasy world in which every action has a consequence in the epic world of Risen.
That don't sound too bad.
Which means I then have to lead with Never Awake, PS5, PS4, Switch, January 26th. A girl who never wakes up. She's been fighting monsters in her dreams. The UCP podcast hosts. Never Awake is a nightmarish twin-stick shooter with a unique worldview and original game rules.
The Dead Space remake for PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, coming out at January 27th. The sci-fi survival horror classic returns, completely rebuilt to offer an even more immersive experience, including visuals, audio, and gameplay improvements, while staying faithful to the original game's thrilling vision. That is the Dead Space remake.
That's my mummy.
Okay. I'm gonna go out on the limb and say I'm gonna go play Forspoken because even though I don't have like super high faith in the game, it is a game that's like trying to appeal to the diversity aspect of it, which kind of means a lot to me as a chocolate man. So I'm kind of like I want that game to be good, so I'm at least gonna give it a try.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, to be honest, I've had another look and I still need to play that demo, but the actual gameplay I saw, the actual combat element is the thing that interests me the most. The game lives and dies, sadly, despite how brave it wants to be with the narrative on its gameplay. And actually, there's something about what we spoke about earlier with Final Fantasy 15 and other things like that, Monster Hunter maybe, but it's starting to build a compelling case in my mind as to something that I'm not going to get it straight away, but I will definitely visit it at some point in time over this year. And I think I get the feeling there's a good game in there somewhere. And that, to take that, to pull you through the narrative of this girl snatched from New York and living in this bizarre world and having to master magic and other bits and bobs, I actually think could be quite an intriguing game. And I think when it plays out long form and not just like bullet points that people have ridiculed on the net, I think there might actually be the semblance of a good game in there.
It reminds me, that open world reminds me, or the look, not so much the look of it, but how it's laid out reminds me very much of Breath of the Wild. I know it's a different gameplay style, but that exploring that open world and where you're going around and anything that makes me think of Breath of the Wild, I'm interested in because that was phenomenal. And I think if they take a bit more of a different take on that with the combat and the style and the story, I think could be a winner.
Yeah, Forspoken was made by Luminous Productions, which was the studio that was comprised mostly of the developers who worked on Final Fantasy 15, by the way. So that's why you're getting a lot of those vibes. So I think if you liked 15, you might like a lot of the core essence behind this game. My prediction for this game this year is that it's probably going to be this generations of the PS5's Days Gone, whereas like the PS4 had Days Gone, which was that kind of cult classic game for the PS4, where a lot of people didn't really vibe with it very well, but like the people who really did really liked that game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is going to be the PS5's Days Gone.
Yeah,
that would be. I think that would be, if that came to play out the way it was. I think that would be very good. We'll see. With that, we know we've got to grab a VHS. So I'm going to get from the Carry On series, Carry On Up the Khyber. RGT, what video are you? Look at your face. Who said it? Yeah, I did. What VHS are you taking home, friend?
I'm going to go with Inner Space.
Oh, such a good film!
I know it is. I saw that in a cinema as a wee little RGT.
I saw it on a boat trip to Sweden.
Wow. I just saw it in the local cinema. I wasn't quite as extravagant as you.
Your cinema would have been more extravagant than the way this
is
really? Watched.
I thought you were on a cruise or something. I saw it.
No, it was like a ferry.
Oh, okay. Rowboat.
Yeah, pretty much.
UMD.
Mate, UMD would have made this look amazing.
Yeah.
Seb, what's your VHS pick for the week?
My VHS pick is going to be the 1988 classic anime movie, Akira.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've never been much into anime, but I had a friend who was, and I did love that film. That was brilliant.
It's really good. Very good. Yeah.
So even to this day, it still looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that art style holds up really well. So I think that's my
good news. That is on UMD, so you can take it home on that format.
There you go.
Perfect. Watch it on a PSP under the covers. Mumsy's never going to know whether you're playing Subhumans in Turkey or watching Akira with headphones in. It's a very dangerous place to be. So. With that, I turn around, and all that's left on the ground is a well-thumbed corner of an adult magazine from the 1980s called Razzle. Was that Ray? Is it Ray? What is Ray? I don't know anymore. But if it was ever going to be a magazine, it would be Razzle, wouldn't it? Let's face facts. Okay. Those that know the format of the show, episode 150, it's been a banger. The only thing left for me to do is ask you, gentlemen, what you're hoping to play. RGT, what are you hoping to play this gaming week?
Definitely getting stuck back into Spider-Man. Love and playing that again, and want to get that second plat on that game. Really enjoying that. Get that last boss done on Harvestella, so you lot can not hear me say the word Harvestella every week when I come on here.
I mean, I know you paid per time you say it, but this is getting a bit much now.
But Harvestella? No, I'm not paid to say Harvestella.
What's that game you're not allowed to talk about?
What, Harvestella?
At least we're getting paid.
So it's definitely Spider-Man, and then, like I say, once Harvestella hopefully is done, then I'll have to please be done next week. Please be done. And then cracking something else, like I say, I must start Live Alive. And that'll be my main games, I think, next week.
Okay, RGT, I mean this out of all the love in my heart. You got to finish Harvestella, and you cannot have any of these games that you had on the last year's list for your Game of the Year on this year's Game of the Year list. We cannot have Harvestella on two lists.
That's a pretty fair point. I mean,
if that is on the second list, I'm struggling.
I'm just saying, you had it on your Game of the Year list this year, but you can't play this game all year long and let this be on your list for this year, too.
No, God, no, please.
The thing about the show is it makes its own rules, so no doubt Harvestella is going to be Game of the Year 2023.
And 4.
And 4. Oh, my goodness.
500 hours.
That means you've got to pay me off to put it number one on my list as well, which is not going to cost you a great deal, admittedly. Seb, what's your hope? What are you hoping to play, friend? I've lost all track of time and space.
Yeah, I'm a polish off little Gator game. I think this game has enough legs that I kind of want to see everything through. And plus, I feel like it has a lot of heart in this story, and I kind of want to see how everything plays out in the end. So I'm a finished little Gator game, and then I will probably play a little Forspoken. And other than that, it's Persona. Like I am knee deep into Persona 3. I hope maybe I can polish that off soon and move on to the next thing. And for the single player experience podcast, we did a deep dive recently into Need for Speed Unbound, where we talked about the ins, the outs, the bad and all the good about that game, and a deep dive into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where we kind of like dove into all the nuances of that game. So I'm kind of glad that I don't have to play those two games anymore because we already did content on them, so to speak. So I think now I'm
Very good.
glad to have that palate cleanser, so to speak. Now,
Yeah, I'm just. I just keep downloading games I've already finished in the hope of finding something new in them or looking. It's just this strange time. I'm waiting. But to fill that space, I'm finding myself trying to fill it with. I'm just looking. I don't know what I'm looking for.
Little palate cleanser you want?
Yeah, I do.
Try the Gardens Between. That's a good little chill out.
I might give that a go, to be fair.
Yeah, just to sit and
do you
relax.
have Game Pass?
I do. One of my addresses, I have Games Pass access.
I was like,
do.
just go on Game Pass to see what tickles your fancies, because I think you'd like Chain Echoes as well. The game I've sort of mentioned last week on the show, where it's kind of like a hybrid between like old school Final Fantasy mixed in with like a couple of mech elements into there. I feel like that game will really sink its teeth into you. And then Chain Echoes and then Cult of the Lamb, I think, are two games I think you would probably, especially the Sim lover that you are, I think would probably like really gravitate, and you'd probably get into that game like no other.
Okay. Well, I will probably. It's easy for me to play it on PlayStation, admittedly, but maybe Cult of the Lamb, and then Maneater, because everybody wants a little bit of a double A game rather than a triple A game every once in a while. With that said, gentlemen, what an absolutely great episode. Hopefully next week we can welcome the mighty Bobby back. Is there anything else you want to impart on the eager listeners before we call it a day?
Get well soon, Bobby. Hope you're feeling better soon, mate.
Yeah.
Also, Retro Replay, our partners. I know I do it at the end of the show every time now, but yeah, don't forget.
Oh, no.
Pop into the arcade. They're still on.
Harvestella, they're no problems at all. Retro Replay, like they're hanging a thread.
Yeah, but yeah, Retro Replay Arcade, Norwich. Don't forget, pop in, £10 all day. Tell them we sent you. There we go.
That's all we have time for this week, listeners. As always, thank you for your time. Look forward to the pleasure of speaking to you again next week. Until then, happy gaming, and remember, there's nothing wrong with being given the unofficial controller. It's what you do with it that counts. See you guys.
See you later, boys.
Peace.